In the quiet moments before sleep, as your breathing slows and your thoughts begin to drift, there exists within you an ancient highway system that never rests. Like the great trade routes of antiquity that connected distant civilizations, your circulatory system weaves an intricate network through every corner of your internal landscape. Rivers of life flow through vessels both grand and microscopic, carrying precious cargo to the farthest reaches of your being. This is not merely transportation, but transformation, a continuous journey of renewal that began with your first heartbeat and will accompany you through every moment of existence. Tonight, we embark on this eternal voyage together, following the pathways that sustain life itself. Within the quiet sanctuary of your body lies a marvel of engineering that would humble the greatest architects of human history. The circulatory system represents billions of years of evolutionary refinement, a transportation network so sophisticated that it operates continuously without conscious thought or effort. As you settle into this moment of rest, consider that every cell in your body depends entirely on this elegant system of flow. The circulatory system, also known as the cardiovascular system, consists of three fundamental components working in perfect harmony: the heart, blood vessels, and blood itself. Think of these as the pump, the pipes, and the precious cargo. Each component has been shaped by evolutionary pressures to perform its role with remarkable efficiency, creating a closed-loop system that ensures no corner of your body goes without the resources it needs to survive and thrive. At its most basic level, circulation solves a fundamental problem faced by all complex, multicellular organisms: how to deliver oxygen and nutrients to cells that may be far from external sources of these vital substances. Single-celled organisms can rely on simple diffusion, allowing molecules to move directly across their cell membranes. But as organisms grew larger and more complex, this passive process became insufficient. The distance from the surface to internal tissues became too great for diffusion alone to sustain life. Evolution's answer was circulation, an active transport system that could carry life-sustaining substances to every cell, regardless of its distance from the body's surface. This innovation allowed organisms to grow larger, develop specialized tissues, and ultimately achieve the complexity we see in human anatomy today. Your circulatory system is thus not merely a collection of tubes and pumps, but a testament to life's ingenuity in overcoming physical limitations. The human circulatory system operates as two interconnected circuits, each with its own specialized purpose. The pulmonary circuit forms a relatively short loop between the heart and lungs, where blood releases carbon dioxide and picks up fresh oxygen. This oxygenated blood then returns to the heart to begin the longer journey through the systemic circuit, which delivers oxygen and nutrients to every tissue in the body before returning deoxygenated blood back to the heart. This dual circuit design represents an evolutionary advancement over simpler circulatory systems. Fish, for example, have a single circuit system where blood flows from heart to gills to body tissues and back to the heart. While functional, this arrangement results in relatively low blood pressure by the time blood reaches the tissues. The mammalian double circuit system allows for higher pressures in the systemic circulation while maintaining appropriate pressures for the delicate gas exchange surfaces in the lungs. Consider the remarkable efficiency of this design. Your heart, roughly the size of your closed fist, pumps approximately 5 liters of blood through your body every minute. Over the course of a typical day, it will beat about 100,000 times, pumping roughly 7,200 liters of blood. This blood travels through an estimated 60,000 miles of blood vessels, enough to circle the Earth more than twice. Yet this entire system operates with such reliability that you remain unaware of its constant activity as you drift towards sleep. The vessels themselves form a hierarchical network of decreasing size and changing function. Arteries, the largest vessels, carry blood away from the heart under high pressure. These branch into smaller arterioles, which in turn connect to capillaries, microscopic vessels where the actual exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste products occurs. From the capillaries, blood enters venules and then veins, which return it to the heart under much lower pressure. This branching pattern follows mathematical principles that optimize both efficiency and functionality. As vessels divide, their total cross-sectional area increases dramatically, causing blood flow to slow in the capillaries exactly where you want it to move slowly, to allow time for exchange processes. It's a design that balances the need for rapid transport through major vessels with the requirement for adequate exchange time in the tissues. Blood itself is far more than a simple transport medium. This liquid tissue consists of plasma, a complex solution containing proteins, electrolytes, nutrients, and hormones, along with three major types of cellular components. Red blood cells, or erythrocytes, are the most numerous and serve as oxygen carriers. White blood cells, or leukocytes, form part of the immune system's mobile defense force. Platelets, or thrombocytes, enable blood clotting when vessels are injured. The composition of blood reflects its multiple functions. In the flacect, beyond transportation, blood helps regulate body temperature by distributing heat from metabolically active tissues like muscle and liver to the skin, where it can be dissipated. It maintains acid-base balance through buffering systems, helps regulate water distribution between tissues, and serves as a communication network for hormones and other signaling molecules. This system's integration with other body systems reveals its central importance to human physiology. The respiratory system provides the oxygen that blood carries and removes the carbon dioxide it transports. The digestive system supplies nutrients that blood distributes throughout the body. The urinary system removes waste products that blood has collected from tissues. The endocrine system uses blood as its highway for hormone distribution. Even the immune system relies heavily on circulation to transport defensive cells and molecules to sites of infection or injury. Understanding the circulatory system requires appreciating its dynamic nature. Unlike the static infrastructure of roads or buildings, this biological network constantly adapts to changing needs. Blood flow can be redirected from one organ to another based on immediate requirements. Vessel diameters can change to regulate pressure and flow. The heart can alter both its rate and force of contraction to meet varying demands. This adaptability becomes particularly evident during different physiological states. During exercise, blood flow increases dramatically to active muscles while decreasing to organs like the digestive tract that can temporarily function with less blood. During digestion, the pattern reverses. Even during sleep, as you experience now, the system makes subtle adjustments, slightly reducing heart rate and redistributing blood flow to support the restorative processes that occur during rest. The circulatory system also demonstrates remarkable redundancy and backup mechanisms. Many organs receive blood from multiple arteries, ensuring continued perfusion if one becomes blocked. The heart itself has its own backup pacemaker systems that can take over if the primary pacemaker fails. collateral circulation can develop over time to bypass obstructed vessels, creating new pathways for blood flow. As we prepare to explore this magnificent system in greater detail, consider that every aspect of your existence depends on its proper functioning. The oxygen reaching your brain that enables thought, the nutrients fueling your muscles, the hormones regulating your sleep cycles, all depend on the continuous circulation of blood through vessels great and small. This is the foundation upon which all other physiological processes rest, the common thread that connects every organ, tissue, and cell in your body. The heart that beats steadily in your chest as you listen to these words is the central engine of this vast network, a remarkable organ whose structure and function we will explore next. Its four chambers work in coordinated rhythm to maintain the pressures and flows that keep this entire system operating smoothly. Understanding the heart's architecture provides the key to appreciating how circulation accomplishes its life-sustaining mission with such remarkable reliability and efficiency. In the sanctuary of your chest, protected by ribs and nestled between your lungs, lies an organ of extraordinary design. Your heart is far more than a simple pump. It is a four-chambered marvel of biological engineering, each chamber precisely crafted to fulfill its role in the endless dance of circulation. As you breathe quietly and feel the gentle rhythm in your chest, you're experiencing the manifestation of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. The human heart occupies a space in the mediastinum, tilted slightly to the left and resting upon the diaphragm. Roughly the size of your closed fist and weighing about 3/4 of a pound, this muscular organ works tirelessly from before birth until death. What makes the heart unique among all organs is its composition of cardiac muscle, a tissue type found nowhere else in the body that possesses the remarkable property of automaticity, the ability to generate its own electrical impulses and contract rhythmically without external stimulation. The heart's four chambers are arranged in two pairs, two atria above and two ventricles below. This architectural arrangement reflects the dual circuit nature of human circulation, with the right side dedicated to pulmonary circulation and the left side serving systemic circulation. Despite being contained within a single organ, these two sides function as separate pumps, each perfectly adapted to their respective circuits. The right atrium serves as the receiving chamber for deoxygenated blood returning from the body's tissues through the superior and inferior vena cava. The tricuspid valve, with its three delicate leaflets, separates the right atrium from the right ventricle. These cusps are supported by chordae tendineae, thread-like structures connected to papillary muscles, ensuring that blood flows in only one direction while preventing backflow during ventricular contraction. The right ventricle pumps blood to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. Its walls are thicker than the atria, but thinner than the left ventricle, reflecting the relatively low pressures required for pulmonary circulation. The delicate alveolar capillaries in the lungs would be damaged by excessive pressure, so the right ventricle generates just enough force to propel blood through the lungs efficiently. The pulmonary semilunar valve, composed of three crescent-shaped cusps, lies between the right ventricle and pulmonary artery. Unlike the tricuspid valve, these cusps rely on pressure dynamics rather than supporting structures. When the ventricle contracts, pressure forces the cusps open. When it relaxes, blood weight pushes the cusps closed, preventing backflow. The left atrium receives oxygen-rich blood from the lungs through four pulmonary veins, the only veins in the adult body carrying oxygenated blood. Its walls are slightly thicker than the right atrium's, generating sufficient pressure to fill the powerful left ventricle. The mitral valve, with its two cusps, guards the passage between left atrium and left ventricle, designed to withstand the higher pressures on the left side of the heart. The left ventricle is the heart's most powerful chamber, with walls 3 times thicker than the right ventricle. This muscular powerhouse generates enough pressure to drive blood through the entire systemic circulation from toes to head, through organs both near and far. Its internal architecture includes prominent muscular ridges called trabeculi, carnii, which increase surface area for efficient contraction. The aortic semilunar valve serves as the final checkpoint before blood begins its systemic journey. With 3 cusps that must withstand much higher pressures than the pulmonary valve, the aortic valve's proper function is crucial for maintaining adequate circulation throughout the body. The heart wall consists of 3 layers: the epicardium, smooth outer surface, the myocardium muscular layer, responsible for contraction, and the endocardium, smooth inner lining. Surrounding the entire heart is the pericardium, a protective double-walled sac that prevents overdistension while allowing the heart to beat freely. Cardiac muscle cells, called cardiomyocytes, are uniquely structured with branching connections through intercalated discs containing gap junctions. These allow electrical impulses to pass rapidly from cell to cell, ensuring coordinated contraction. Each cell contains numerous mitochondria, more than almost any other cell type, reflecting the heart's enormous energy demands and need for continuous ATP production. The arrangement of muscle fibers follows a complex 3-dimensional pattern, spiraling around the chambers to create a ringing motion during contraction that effectively empties the ventricles. This design ensures the heart contracts from apex to base, pushing blood upward toward the outflow valves with maximum efficiency. Blood supply to the heart muscle itself begins immediately above the aortic valve with the coronary arteries, which must provide continuous oxygen and nutrients to every cardiac cell. Unlike skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle has virtually no capacity for anaerobic metabolism, requiring constant aerobic energy production to maintain its rhythm. The heart's electrical conduction system operates somewhat independently of its mechanical function, with specialized pacemaker cells generating rhythmic impulses that coordinate precise timing of contractions. This separation allows the heart to maintain rhythm even when mechanical function is compromised, demonstrating the elegant redundancy that contributes to the heart's remarkable reliability. During rest, like this quiet moment, the heart operates efficiently at steady baseline levels. Heart rate typically slows slightly during sleep, while stroke volume may increase marginally, representing the cardiovascular system's adaptive efficiency in meeting changing needs with maximum economy. Understanding the heart structure reveals the extraordinary precision required for proper function, 4 chambers filling and emptying in perfect sequence, 4 valves opening and closing at precisely the right moments, muscular walls contracting and relaxing with coordinated timing. This synchronization occurs automatically, without conscious control, yet with precision that rivals the most sophisticated mechanical devices. The heart's architecture represents evolutionary refinement toward efficiency and reliability, with every design aspect reflecting millions of years of natural selection, favoring optimal blood pumping while maintaining durability over a lifetime of continuous operation. Understanding this structure provides the foundation for appreciating how the electrical system coordinates the mechanical events that drive circulation and sustain life itself. Within your chest, a rhythm more ancient than music itself plays out in perfect time. The steady beating you feel as you settle into stillness represents one of biology's most elegant solutions to the challenge of maintaining life. A self-generating electrical system that ensures your heart contracts with precise timing, moment after moment, for every day of your existence. This rhythm began before you took your first breath and will continue as long as life flows through your body. The heart's electrical conduction system operates independently of your conscious mind, yet with a precision that governs every aspect of circulation. Unlike skeletal muscles, which await commands from the brain, the heart possesses the remarkable ability of automaticity. It generates its own electrical impulses and maintains its own rhythm. This biological pacemaker system represents one of evolution's most crucial innovations, ensuring that circulation continues even when other systems fail. At the apex of this electrical hierarchy lies the sinoatrial node, often called the SA node or the heart's natural pacemaker. Located in the wall of the right atrium near the entrance of the superior vena cava, this small cluster of specialized cardiac cells measures only about 15 millimeters long and 5 millimeters wide. Despite its modest size, the SA node controls the rhythm that sustains your life, generating electrical impulses at a rate of approximately 60 to 100 beats per minute during rest. The cells of the SA node differ fundamentally from ordinary cardiac muscle cells. While typical cardiomyocytes maintain a stable electrical charge until stimulated, pacemaker cells exhibit a unique property called automaticity. Their cell membranes gradually become less negative over time, slowly drifting toward the threshold for electrical activation. Once this threshold is reached, the cell fires an action potential, then begins the gradual drift toward the next threshold crossing. This creates the rhythmic pattern of electrical activation that drives your heartbeat. The rate at which SA node cells reach their firing threshold can be modified by various influences. The autonomic nervous system plays the primary regulatory role, with sympathetic stimulation accelerating the drift to threshold, increasing heart rate during exercise or stress. Parasympathetic stimulation through the vagus nerve has the opposite effect, slowing the approach to threshold and reducing heart rate during rest and relaxation. Hormones like epinephrine can also increase heart rate, while factors like electrolyte imbalances or medications can alter the pacemaker's natural rhythm. From the SA node, electrical impulses spread throughout both atria like ripples across a still pond. The atrial muscle fibers are electrically connected through gap junctions, allowing the wave of depolarization to travel rapidly from cell to cell. This electrical wave stimulates atrial muscle fibers to contract, squeezing blood from the atria into the ventricles below. The wavefront travels at approximately 1 meter per second through atrial tissue, ensuring coordinated contraction of these receiving chambers. As the electrical impulse spreads through the atria, it encounters a critical structure, the atrioventricular node, or AV node. Located in the floor of the right atrium, near the opening of the coronary sinus, the AV node serves as the only normal electrical connection between the atria and ventricles. This strategic positioning allows the AV node to act as both a relay station and a protective barrier, controlling the passage of electrical impulses from atria to ventricles. The AV node also serves a protective function, acting as a filter that prevents excessively rapid atrial rhythms from reaching the ventricles. If the atria begin contracting at dangerously high rates, as occurs in certain arrhythmias, the AV node's slow conduction properties limit how many impulses can pass through to the ventricles. This built-in protection mechanism prevents the ventricles from being overwhelmed by pathologically rapid rhythms. From the AV node, electrical impulses enter the bundle of His, also known as the atrioventricular bundle. This structure, named after the German cardiologist Wilhelm His Jr., represents the beginning of the ventricular conduction system. The bundle of His penetrates the fibrous tissue that electrically insulates the atria from the ventricles, providing the only normal pathway for electrical conduction between these chambers. The bundle of His quickly divides into left and right bundle branches, each destined for its respective ventricle. The right bundle branch is relatively simple, consisting of a single pathway that travels down the right side of the interventricular septum toward the apex of the heart. The left bundle branch is more complex, dividing into anterior and posterior fascicles that spread across the larger left ventricular muscle mass. These bundle branches give rise to an intricate network of Purkinje fibers, specialized conduction cells that spread throughout the ventricular walls like the branches of an inverted tree. Purkinje fibers are among the largest cells in the heart and conduct electrical impulses at remarkable speed, up to 4 meters per second, faster than any other cardiac tissue. This rapid conduction ensures that electrical activation reaches all parts of the ventricular walls almost simultaneously, producing coordinated contraction of these powerful pumping chambers. The entire ventricular conduction system is designed to activate the ventricles from apex to base, creating an upward squeezing motion that efficiently ejects blood toward the outflow valves. The Purkinje fibers reach deepest into the ventricular walls at the apex, where contraction begins, then spread progressively toward the base. This activation pattern, combined with the spiral arrangement of muscle fibers, creates the optimal mechanical sequence for emptying the ventricles. The cardiac cycle, the sequence of events that occurs with each heartbeat, can be divided into two major phases: systole and diastole. Systole refers to the period when the heart muscle contracts, while diastole describes the relaxation phase when the chambers fill with blood. Understanding this cycle reveals how electrical events translate into the mechanical work of circulation. The cycle begins with atrial systole, when the SA node fires and electrical activation spreads through the atria. This causes both atria to contract nearly simultaneously, squeezing the final portion of blood from these receiving chambers into the ventricles below. Atrial systole contributes about 20–30% of ventricular filling, with the remainder occurring passively during the previous diastolic period. Following the AV nodal delay, ventricular systole begins as electrical activation spreads through the bundle branches and Purkinje system. The initial phase, called isovolumic contraction, occurs when the ventricular muscle begins contracting, but before the semilunar valves open. During this brief period, pressure rises rapidly within the ventricles, while their volume remains constant as all valves are temporarily closed. When ventricular pressure exceeds the pressure in the aorta and pulmonary artery, the semilunar valves snap open, beginning the ejection phase of systole. Blood rushes out of the ventricles into the arterial systems, with the majority of stroke volume ejected during the first third of this phase. The ventricles don't empty completely. Typically about 40–50% of their blood remains at the end of systole, providing a reserve that can be utilized when greater cardiac output is needed. As ventricular contraction ends and the muscle begins to relax. Pressure within the ventricles falls below arterial pressure, causing the semilunar valves to close with the characteristic dub sound of the heartbeat. This begins isovolumic relaxation, a brief period when the ventricles are relaxing, but the AV valves haven't yet opened. Once ventricular pressure falls below atrial pressure, the AV valves open, beginning the filling phase of diastole. Ventricular filling occurs in several stages. Early diastole features rapid filling as blood that has accumulated in the atria during systole rushes into the relaxing ventricles. This is followed by a period of slower filling as the pressure gradient between atria and ventricles equalizes. The cycle completes with atrial systole, providing the final boost to ventricular filling before the next ventricular contraction begins. The electrical events of the cardiac cycle can be recorded using an electrocardiogram, ECG, a non-invasive test that detects the heart's electrical activity through electrodes placed on the body surface. The ECG tracing shows characteristic waves corresponding to different phases of electrical activation. The P wave represents atrial depolarization, the QRS complex shows ventricular depolarization, and the T wave reflects ventricular repolarization as the cells reset their electrical charge for the next cycle. The intrinsic heart rate, the rate at which the SA node fires without any neural or hormonal influences, is approximately 100 beats per minute. The typical resting heart rate of 60 to 80 beats per minute reflects the dominant influence of parasympathetic tone, which slows the heart's natural pace. During sleep, parasympathetic activity increases further, often reducing heart rate to 50 to 60 beats per minute as the cardiovascular system adjusts to the body's reduced metabolic demands. Backup pacemaker systems provide redundancy in case the SA node fails. The AV node can generate its own rhythm at 40 to 60 beats per minute, while ventricular pacemaker cells can maintain a basic rhythm at 20 to 40 beats per minute. These escape rhythms ensure that some circulation continues even when higher-level pacemakers are compromised, though they may not provide adequate cardiac output for normal activity. Temperature affects the heart's electrical activity, with warming generally increasing heart rate and cooling slowing it. This temperature sensitivity explains why heart rate typically rises during fever and why hypothermia can lead to dangerously slow heart rhythms. Electrolyte concentrations, particularly potassium, calcium, and magnesium, critically influence the electrical properties of cardiac cells and can dramatically alter heart rhythm when disturbed. The heart's electrical system demonstrates remarkable adaptability to changing demands. During exercise, sympathetic nervous system activation and circulating epinephrine increase heart rate, while also enhancing the force of contraction. The AV node conducts impulses more rapidly, and the overall efficiency of electrical mechanical coupling improves. These adaptations allow cardiac output to increase several-fold during maximal exercise. Age brings changes to the electrical conduction system. The SA node gradually loses pacemaker cells over time, potentially leading to slower resting heart rates in older adults. The AV node and bundle branches may develop fibrosis, occasionally creating conduction delays or blocks. Despite these changes, the heart's electrical system typically maintains adequate function throughout a normal lifespan, testament to the robustness of its original design. As you rest quietly and feel the steady rhythm in your chest, you're experiencing the culmination of this elegant electrical system at work. Each beat represents a precisely timed sequence of electrical events that began in the SA node, spread through specialized pathways, and coordinated the contraction of millions of cardiac muscle cells. This rhythm, established before your birth, continues its steady cadence, maintaining the circulation upon which every cell in your body depends. The blood that this rhythmic pumping moves through your body carries within it the essence of life itself: oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and countless other substances essential for cellular function. Understanding the nature of this vital fluid and its many components reveals how the heart's mechanical work translates into the delivery of life-sustaining resources to every corner of your body. Flowing through the vessels we have explored moves a fluid more precious than any earthly treasure, your blood. This remarkable liquid tissue carries within it the essence of life itself, a complex mixture of cells, proteins, and dissolved substances that enables every function your body performs. As you rest quietly, approximately 5 liters of this vital fluid circulates continuously through your body, completing its journey from heart to tissues and back again roughly once each minute. Blood represents one of the most sophisticated transport systems in nature, far more complex than any human-engineered equivalent. Unlike simple solutions that merely carry dissolved substances, blood is a living tissue composed of multiple cell types, suspended in a protein-rich fluid called plasma. This design allows blood to perform functions that would require numerous separate systems in any mechanical equivalent: transportation, regulation, protection, and communication, all accomplished by this single, remarkable substance. Plasma comprises approximately 55% of blood volume and serves as the medium in which blood cells travel. This straw-colored fluid consists of about 90% water, with the remaining 10% containing over 100 different dissolved substances. Among these are proteins that maintain blood volume and pressure, electrolytes that regulate cellular function, nutrients absorbed from the digestive tract, hormones secreted by endocrine glands, and waste products collected from cellular metabolism. The protein content of plasma reflects blood's multiple roles. Albumin, the most abundant plasma protein, creates the osmotic pressure that keeps fluid within blood vessels rather than allowing it to leak into surrounding tissues. Without adequate albumin, fluid accumulates in tissues, creating the swelling known as edema. Fibrinogen and other clotting factors stand ready to form blood clots when vessels are injured, preventing excessive blood loss. Immunoglobulins, antibodies produced by the immune system, circulate through plasma to provide protection against pathogens throughout the body. Transport proteins within plasma carry substances that are too large or too poorly soluble to travel freely in the watery medium. Transferrin carries iron to developing red blood cells, while lipoproteins transport cholesterol and other lipids to cells that need them for membrane synthesis and hormone production. Binding proteins carry hormones like thyroid hormones and steroid hormones, releasing them gradually to target tissues. This protein-mediated transport allows blood to carry a vastly greater variety of substances than would be possible with water alone. The cellular components of blood, collectively called formed elements, include 3 major types of cells, each specialized for specific functions. Red blood cells, or erythrocytes, are by far the most numerous, comprising about 45% of blood volume and numbering approximately 4.5 to 5.5 million per microliter in healthy adults. These cells are so specialized for oxygen transport that they have sacrificed many typical cellular features to maximize their efficiency. Red blood cells present one of biology's most elegant examples of form following function. Their biconcave disc, shaped thinner in the center than at the edges, maximizes surface area while maintaining flexibility. This design allows them to squeeze through capillaries barely wider than their own diameter while maintaining maximum contact between their hemoglobin molecules and the surrounding plasma. The absence of a nucleus in most organelles provides more space for hemoglobin while reducing the cell's metabolic demands. Hemoglobin, the protein that gives blood its red color, represents a masterpiece of molecular engineering. Each red blood cell contains approximately 280 million hemoglobin molecules, each capable of carrying up to 4 oxygen molecules. This creates an enormous oxygen carrying capacity. Each liter of blood can transport about 200 milliliters of oxygen, roughly 70 times more than could be dissolved in plasma alone. The structure of hemoglobin allows it to perform its function with remarkable efficiency. 4 protein chains, each containing a heme group with an iron atom at its center, can bind oxygen reversibly. In the lungs, where oxygen pressure is high, hemoglobin readily binds oxygen. In the tissues, where oxygen pressure is lower, hemoglobin releases its oxygen cargo. This property, called cooperative binding, ensures that hemoglobin picks up oxygen efficiently in the lungs and releases it readily where it's needed most. Red blood cells have a lifespan of approximately 120 days, during which they travel through the circulation about 75,000 times. Their lack of a nucleus prevents them from repairing themselves, so they gradually accumulate damage from the mechanical stress of circulation. Aged red blood cells are removed from circulation by macrophages in the spleen, liver, and bone marrow, which recycle their iron and amino acids while converting their hemoglobin into bilirubin for excretion. The production of red blood cells, called erythropoiesis, occurs primarily in the red bone marrow of adults. This process requires approximately 1 week from the initial stem cell division to the release of mature red blood cells into circulation. The kidney hormone erythropoietin regulates this production, increasing red blood cell formation when oxygen levels are low and reducing it when oxygen delivery is adequate. White blood cells, or leukocytes, are far less numerous than red blood cells, but serve equally vital functions as part of the immune system. Numbering approximately 4,000 to 11,000 per microliter in healthy adults, these cells patrol the circulation and tissues, defending against pathogens and removing cellular debris. Unlike red blood cells, white blood cells are complete cells with nuclei and organelles, and many can leave the circulation to enter tissues where threats are detected. Lymphocytes include several subtypes with specialized functions in adaptive immunity. B lymphocytes produce antibodies that neutralize specific pathogens, while T lymphocytes coordinate immune responses and directly attack infected cells. Natural killer cells destroy virus-infected cells and tumor cells. These cells provide the specificity and memory that allow the immune system to mount increasingly effective responses to repeated encounters with the same pathogen. Monocytes circulate in blood but perform their primary function after migrating into tissues, where they develop into macrophages. These large cells engulf pathogens, cellular debris, and other foreign substances, while also presenting antigens to other immune cells to coordinate broader immune responses. Macrophages also play important roles in wound healing and tissue remodeling. Eosinophils and basophils are less numerous, but serve important functions in allergic reactions and parasite defense. Eosinophils are particularly effective against parasitic worms, while basophils release histamine and other mediators that initiate inflammatory responses. Both cell types can contribute to allergic reactions when the immune system responds inappropriately to harmless substances. Platelets or thrombocytes are not complete cells, but rather small fragments of larger cells called megakaryocytes. These disc-shaped structures, numbering 150,000 to 450,000 per microliter, play crucial roles in hemostasis, the process of stopping bleeding when blood vessels are injured. Despite their small size, platelets contain numerous granules filled with substances that promote blood clotting and vessel repair. When a blood vessel is damaged, platelets respond within seconds. They adhere to exposed collagen fibers in the vessel wall, then change shape from smooth discs to spiny spheres with multiple projections that help them stick to each other and to the damaged tissue. This process, called platelet activation, also triggers the release of chemical signals that attract more platelets and initiate the coagulation cascade. The coagulation cascade represents one of biology's most complex regulatory systems, involving more than a dozen different clotting factors that interact in a carefully orchestrated sequence. The end result is the conversion of fibrinogen, a soluble plasma protein, into fibrin, an insoluble protein that forms long strands. These fibrin strands create a mesh that traps red blood cells and platelets, forming a blood clot that seals the damaged vessel. This clotting system must be precisely regulated to prevent both excessive bleeding and inappropriate clot formation. Natural anticoagulants in plasma prevent clots from forming when they're not needed, while the fibrinolytic system dissolves clots once vessel repair is complete. The balance between clot formation and dissolution ensures that hemostasis occurs when needed without compromising circulation. Blood typing reflects variations in proteins and carbohydrates on red blood cell surfaces. The ABO blood group system involves two antigens, A and B, that may be present on red blood cells. Individuals with type A blood have A antigens, those with type B have B antigens, those with type AB have both, and those with type O have neither. Plasma contains antibodies against the antigens not present on the individual's own red blood cells, which is why blood transfusions must be carefully matched. The Rh blood group system involves another red blood cell antigen, with Rh positive individuals having the antigen and Rh negative individuals lacking it. This system becomes particularly important during pregnancy, as Rh incompatibility between mother and fetus can lead to hemolytic disease of the newborn if not properly managed. Blood volume regulation involves complex interactions between the cardiovascular system, kidneys, and endocrine system. The kidneys adjust fluid retention and elimination based on blood volume and pressure, while hormones like aldosterone and antidiuretic hormone fine-tune these responses. Baroreceptors in major blood vessels detect changes in pressure and initiate compensatory responses through the nervous system. The distribution of blood volume throughout the body reflects functional priorities. At rest, approximately 20% of blood volume is in the arteries, 5% in the capillaries, and 75% in the venous system. This distribution can change rapidly based on physiological demands during exercise. More blood is directed to active muscles, while during digestion, increased blood flow supports intestinal function. Blood pH must be maintained within a narrow range of 7.35 to 7.45 for proper cellular function. Several buffer systems in blood help maintain this pH, with the bicarbonate buffer system being most important for handling the carbon dioxide produced by cellular metabolism. The lungs and kidneys work together to maintain acid-base balance, with the lungs eliminating carbon dioxide and the kidneys excreting excess acids or bases. The viscosity of blood, its thickness or resistance to flow, affects circulation efficiency. Blood is about 4 times more viscous than water due to its cellular content and plasma proteins. This viscosity helps maintain appropriate pressure in the arterial system while ensuring adequate perfusion of tissues. Changes in hematocrit, the percentage of blood volume occupied by red blood cells, can significantly affect blood viscosity and circulation. As blood flows through your body during these quiet moments, it performs countless functions simultaneously. Oxygen molecules diffuse from hemoglobin in lung capillaries, while carbon dioxide moves in the opposite direction. Nutrients absorbed from your last meal travel to cells throughout your body, while waste products journey toward excretory organs. Hormones released hours ago continue circulating until they encounter their target cells and immune cells. Patrol constantly for potential threats. This river of life represents the culmination of billions of years of evolutionary refinement, a fluid tissue so sophisticated that medical science continues to discover new aspects of its function. Every component serves multiple purposes, every interaction is precisely regulated, and every function contributes to the maintenance of life. Understanding blood's complexity and versatility provides the foundation for appreciating how this precious fluid moves through the vessels that carry it, beginning with the high-pressure arteries that will be our next focus. From the powerful chambers of your heart, blood surges into vessels that rank among the most remarkable engineering achievements in the biological world. The arteries that carry this life-sustaining fluid away from your heart represent a network of living highways, each precisely constructed to handle the enormous pressures generated by cardiac contraction while maintaining the flexibility needed for a lifetime of pulsatile flow. As you rest quietly, these vessels expand and contract with each heartbeat, absorbing the shock of ventricular ejection and converting it into steady forward flow. The arterial system begins with the aorta, the body's largest artery, and the main trunk from which all systemic circulation branches. Rising from the left ventricle like a great tree emerging from the earth, the aorta measures approximately 2.5 centimeters in diameter, at its origin roughly the width of a garden hose, yet capable of withstanding pressures that would rupture any manufactured tubing of similar dimensions. This remarkable vessel curves gracefully over the top of the heart, forming the aortic arch before descending through the chest and abdomen to supply the entire body with oxygenated blood. The aortic arch gives rise to 3 major branches that supply the head, neck, and upper extremities. The brachiocephalic trunk, the first and largest branch, divides into the right common carotid artery, serving the right side of the head and neck, and the right subclavian artery, supplying the right arm. The left common carotid artery emerges directly from the arch to serve the left side of the head and neck, while the left subclavian artery provides blood flow to the left upper extremity. These great vessels demonstrate the arterial system's hierarchical organization. Large elastic arteries like the aorta and its major branches are designed primarily for transport, carrying blood efficiently over long distances while dampening pressure fluctuations. As these vessels branch into progressively smaller arteries, their structure and function gradually change to meet the specific needs of the tissues they serve. Arterial wall structure reflects the unique demands placed on these vessels. Three distinct layers, or tunics, comprise the arterial wall, each contributing specific properties essential for proper function. The innermost layer, the tunica intima, provides a smooth surface that minimizes resistance to blood flow. This thin layer consists of a single sheet of endothelial cells resting on a basement membrane with an underlying layer of elastic fibers called the internal elastic lamina. The endothelium lining arteries is far more than a passive barrier. These cells actively regulate vascular function through the production of numerous substances that control vessel diameter, blood clotting, and inflammatory responses. Nitric oxide, produced by endothelial cells, causes smooth muscle relaxation and vasodilation while also inhibiting platelet aggregation and white blood cell adhesion. Endothelin, another endothelial product, produces vasoconstriction when needed. This dynamic regulation allows arteries to adjust their diameter constantly based on local and systemic demands. The middle layer, or tunica media, comprises the bulk of the arterial wall and determines most of its mechanical properties. In large elastic arteries like the aorta, this layer contains numerous sheets of elastic fibers arranged in concentric rings. These fibers, composed primarily of the protein elastin, allow the vessel wall to stretch during systole when blood is ejected from the ventricles, then recoil during diastole to maintain forward flow. This Windkessel effect transforms the pulsatile output of the heart into steadier flow in smaller vessels downstream. Smooth muscle cells within the tunica media provide the contractile force needed for vasoconstriction and vasodilation. Unlike cardiac or skeletal muscle, vascular smooth muscle can maintain sustained contractions with relatively little energy expenditure, allowing vessels to maintain their diameter for extended periods. These muscle cells respond to neural stimulation, circulating hormones, and local chemical signals, providing multiple levels of control over vessel diameter. The outermost layer, the tunica adventitia, consists of tough connective tissue that anchors the vessel to surrounding structures while preventing overdistension. This layer contains collagen fibers that limit vessel expansion beyond safe parameters, protecting the vessel from rupture during pressure spikes. The adventitia also houses the vasa vasorum, literally vessels of vessels, small arteries and veins that supply blood to the arterial wall itself. As arteries branch and become smaller, their structure gradually changes to reflect altered functional requirements. Large elastic arteries near the heart prioritize stretch and recoil to smooth pressure fluctuations. Medium-sized muscular arteries, also called distributing arteries, emphasize the ability to adjust their diameter to regulate blood flow to specific organs or regions. These vessels have relatively more smooth muscle in their walls and less elastic tissue, allowing for greater changes in diameter through vasoconstriction and vasodilation. The carotid arteries exemplify the importance of arterial design in meeting tissue-specific needs. These vessels, arising from the aortic arch, carry approximately 20% of the heart's output to supply the brain, an organ that comprises only 2% of body weight but consumes 20% of the body's oxygen and glucose. The common carotid arteries ascend through the neck without giving off branches, ensuring maximum blood flow reaches the brain. At the level of the thyroid cartilage, each common carotid divides into internal and external carotid arteries. The internal carotid arteries enter the skull and join with the vertebral arteries to form the circle of Willis, an arterial ring at the base of the brain that provides collateral circulation to this vital organ. This anatomical arrangement ensures that blood flow to the brain can be maintained even if one major artery becomes blocked. The external carotid arteries supply the face, scalp, and other structures of the head and neck through numerous branches. The coronary arteries represent perhaps the most critical arterial branches as they supply blood to the heart muscle itself. The right and left coronary arteries arise from the aortic root just above the aortic valve, filling with blood during diastole when the aortic valve is closed. The left coronary artery quickly divides into the left anterior descending artery, which supplies the front wall of the left ventricle and the interventricular septum, and the left circumflex artery, which serves the lateral and posterior walls of the left ventricle. The right coronary artery supplies the right ventricle and, in most individuals, gives rise to the posterior descending artery that serves the inferior wall of the left ventricle. This coronary circulation must provide adequate blood flow to cardiac muscle that never rests, requiring continuous oxygen and nutrient delivery to maintain its rhythmic contractions. Arterial pressure reflects the interaction between cardiac output and the resistance offered by the arterial system. Systolic pressure, the peak pressure reached during ventricular contraction, typically measures around 120 mHg in healthy adults. Diastolic pressure, the lowest pressure between heartbeats, normally measures about 80 mmHg. The difference between these pressures, called pulse pressure, reflects the stroke volume ejected by the left ventricle and the compliance of the arterial system. The pressure wave created by each heartbeat travels through the arterial system much faster than the blood itself, reaching peripheral arteries in a fraction of a second. This pressure wave can be felt as the pulse wherever arteries lie close to the body's surface, such as at the wrist, neck, or ankle. The character of the pulse, its strength, regularity, and quality provides valuable information about cardiovascular function. Arterial compliance, the ability of vessel walls to stretch in response to pressure changes, decreases with age as elastic fibers in the vessel walls deteriorate and are replaced by stiffer collagen. This age-related stiffening causes systolic pressure to rise, while diastolic pressure may decrease, increasing pulse pressure and making the heart work harder to maintain circulation. The branching pattern of arteries follows mathematical principles that optimize the efficiency of blood delivery while minimizing the energy required to maintain circulation. At each branching point, the total cross-sectional area of daughter vessels typically exceeds that of the parent vessel, causing blood velocity to decrease as it moves toward smaller vessels. This progressive slowing ensures adequate time for exchange processes in the capillaries. Arterial blood flow exhibits complex patterns that vary with vessel size and location. In large arteries, flow is typically laminar, with blood moving in smooth layers parallel to the vessel wall. The fastest flow occurs in the center of the vessel, while flow near the walls is slower due to friction. In areas where vessels branch or curve sharply, flow may become turbulent, creating the sounds that can be heard with a stethoscope over certain arteries. The subclavian arteries demonstrate the arterial system's adaptation to specific functional requirements. These vessels must supply blood to the highly mobile upper extremities while accommodating the wide range of arm movements. As the subclavian artery passes beneath the clavicle, it changes name to the axillary artery, then becomes the brachial artery as it travels down the arm. The brachial artery divides at the elbow into the radial and ulnar arteries, which interconnect through arterial arches in the hand to ensure adequate blood flow regardless of arm position. Arterial regulation operates through multiple mechanisms that allow precise control of blood flow to meet tissue needs. The sympathetic nervous system provides systemic control through norepinephrine release, which binds to alpha adrenergic receptors on smooth muscle cells, causing vasoconstriction. This system enables rapid redistribution of blood flow during stress or exercise, directing blood away from organs like the intestines toward muscles and other tissues with increased demands. Local regulation allows individual organs to control their own blood flow based on metabolic needs. When tissue activity increases, the resulting decrease in oxygen levels and increase in carbon dioxide and other metabolites cause local vasodilation, increasing blood flow to match demand. This autoregulation ensures that active tissues receive adequate perfusion while preventing excessive flow to less active areas. Hormonal regulation provides another layer of arterial control. Angiotensin II, produced by the renin-angiotensin system, causes vasoconstriction while also stimulating aldosterone release to increase blood volume. Epinephrine from the adrenal medulla can cause either vasoconstriction or vasodilation depending on the receptors present in different tissues. Vasopressin provides backup vasoconstriction when blood pressure falls dangerously low. The renal arteries illustrate specialized arterial adaptations. These vessels must maintain steady blood flow to the kidneys across a wide range of blood pressures to ensure consistent filtration. The kidneys receive approximately 20% of cardiac output, despite comprising only 1% of body weight, reflecting their crucial role in maintaining fluid and electrolyte balance. Arterial disease, primarily atherosclerosis, represents the leading cause of death in developed nations. This process involves the accumulation of lipids, inflammatory cells, and fibrous tissue within arterial walls, creating plaques that narrow the vessel lumen and reduce blood flow. When these plaques rupture, they can trigger blood clot formation that completely blocks the artery, causing heart attacks or strokes depending on the location. The mesenteric arteries supply blood to the digestive organs, with flow patterns that vary dramatically based on digestive activity. During fasting, blood flow to the intestines is minimal, but after meals, flow can increase several fold to support the energy-intensive processes of digestion and absorption. The superior mesenteric artery serves most of the small intestine and proximal colon, while the inferior mesenteric artery supplies the distal colon and rectum. Exercise produces profound changes in arterial function and blood flow distribution. During physical activity, arterial dilation in active muscles can increase blood flow by 10 to 20-fold, while blood flow to organs like the kidneys and digestive tract decreases to redistribute blood where it's most needed. The arterial system's ability to make these rapid adjustments reflects the sophisticated control mechanisms that regulate vascular function. Temperature affects arterial function significantly. Cold exposure causes vasoconstriction to conserve body heat, while heat exposure produces vasodilation to promote heat loss. These thermoregulatory responses are most prominent in cutaneous arteries, but also affect deeper vessels to some degree. As we contemplate these great highways of circulation, consider that every artery in your body represents a precisely engineered conduit designed for specific functional requirements. From the massive aorta handling the full output of your heart to the delicate ophthalmic artery nourishing your retina, each vessel reflects millions of years of evolutionary refinement. The smooth coordination of their function ensures that every tissue receives adequate blood flow to maintain its vital activities. The arterial system's remarkable ability to adapt to changing demands becomes even more impressive when we consider the smaller vessels that branch from these great highways. The arterioles, which we'll explore next, serve as the fine-tuning mechanisms of circulation, adjusting resistance and flow with extraordinary precision to meet the specific needs of individual tissues and organs. Between the great arterial highways and the microscopic capillary beds lies a remarkable network of vessels that serves as the circulatory system's primary control mechanism. The arterioles, measuring only 10 to 100 micrometers in diameter, roughly the thickness of a human hair, represent the true command centers of blood flow distribution. These small vessels possess the extraordinary ability to adjust their diameter moment by moment, redirecting blood flow with surgical precision to match the ever-changing needs of your body's tissues. As you rest in this quiet moment, thousands of these microscopic vessels throughout your body are making continuous adjustments, slightly constricting here and dilating there, ensuring that each organ receives exactly the blood flow it requires. This constant fine-tuning occurs without your awareness, yet it represents one of the most sophisticated control systems in biology, rivaling the complexity of any human-engineered network. Arterioles bridge the gap between the high-pressure arterial system and the low-pressure venous return, serving as the primary site of vascular resistance in the circulation. While they comprise only a small fraction of the total vascular volume, their collective resistance determines systemic blood pressure and controls the distribution of cardiac output among different organs. This critical role has earned them the designation resistance vessels, though this term barely captures their sophisticated regulatory capabilities. The structure of arterioles reflects their specialized function. Unlike larger arteries, which prioritize transport efficiency, arterioles are designed for maximum controllability. Their walls consist predominantly of smooth muscle cells arranged in one or two layers around a small central lumen. This high ratio of muscle to lumen diameter allows arterioles to change their internal diameter dramatically, from completely closed to several times their resting size, providing an enormous range of flow control. The smooth muscle cells in arterial walls differ significantly from those in larger vessels. These cells are smaller, more tightly packed, and more responsive to stimuli. They maintain a baseline level of contraction called vascular tone, which provides the starting point for further constriction or dilation. This resting tone is maintained by a steady, low-level influx of calcium ions into the muscle cells, keeping them in a state of partial contraction that can be quickly modified as needed. Arteriolar regulation operates through multiple overlapping mechanisms, creating a sophisticated control network that can respond to signals ranging from individual cellular needs to system-wide emergencies. Neural control provides rapid, system-wide adjustments through the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nerve fibers release norepinephrine, which binds to alpha-adrenergic receptors on smooth muscle cells, causing vasoconstriction. This system allows the brain to redirect blood flow quickly during stress, exercise, or other situations requiring rapid circulatory adjustments. The density of sympathetic innervation varies significantly among different vascular beds, reflecting the varying degrees of neural control required. Arterioles supplying skeletal muscle, skin, and abdominal organs receive extensive sympathetic innervation, allowing for dramatic changes in blood flow during different physiological states. In contrast, coronary and cerebral arterioles have relatively sparse sympathetic innervation, as these critical organs require more stable blood flow that's less subject to neural override. Hormonal regulation provides another layer of arteriolar control, typically operating over longer timescales than neural mechanisms. Epinephrine and norepinephrine released from the adrenal medulla during stress bind to both alpha and beta adrenergic receptors on arteriolar smooth muscle. The response depends on which receptor type predominates in a particular vascular bed. Alpha receptors cause vasoconstriction, while beta 2 receptors produce vasodilation. Angiotensin II, a potent vasoconstrictor produced by the renin-angiotensin system, affects arterioles throughout the body but has particularly strong effects on renal and splanchnic vessels. This hormone helps maintain blood pressure during volume depletion while also stimulating aldosterone release to promote fluid retention. Vasopressin, released during severe hypotension, provides backup vasoconstriction when other mechanisms prove insufficient. Local metabolic control represents perhaps the most important mechanism for matching blood flow to tissue needs. When cells increase their metabolic activity, they consume more oxygen and produce more carbon dioxide, lactate, and other metabolic byproducts. These changes in the local chemical environment directly affect arteriolar smooth muscle, causing vasodilation that increases blood flow to match the tissue's elevated needs. This metabolic autoregulation operates through multiple pathways. Decreased oxygen levels cause smooth muscle relaxation through effects on potassium channels in the muscle cell membrane. Increased carbon dioxide and decreased pH directly relax vascular smooth muscle. Adenosine, produced when cellular energy stores become depleted, acts as a powerful local vasodilator. Potassium ions released from active cells also contribute to metabolic vasodilation. The beauty of metabolic control lies in its self-regulating nature. Tissues that work harder automatically receive more blood flow, while those with reduced activity see their flow decrease proportionally. This system ensures optimal distribution of blood flow without requiring any central coordination, allowing the circulation to adapt automatically to changing patterns of tissue activity. Endothelial control adds another layer of sophistication to arteriolar regulation. The endothelial cells lining these vessels actively participate in flow control through the production of vasoactive substances. Nitric oxide, produced continuously by endothelial cells, provides ongoing vasodilation that opposes the vasoconstrictor influences of the sympathetic nervous system. This creates a balanced tone that can be adjusted in either direction as needed. Endothelial cells respond to numerous stimuli, including mechanical forces from blood flow, chemical signals from the blood, and paracrine factors from surrounding tissues. Increased flow rate stimulates nitric oxide production through shear stress on the endothelial surface, creating a negative feedback system that tends to maintain constant flow velocity. Various hormones, neurotransmitters, and inflammatory mediators can also stimulate or inhibit endothelial production of vasoactive factors. The concept of vascular resistance helps explain how arterioles control blood flow and pressure. Resistance to flow depends on vessel diameter according to Poiseuille's law, with resistance changing as the fourth power of the radius. This means that having an arteriole's diameter increases resistance 16-fold, while doubling the diameter decreases resistance to 1/16 of its original value. This mathematical relationship explains why small changes in arteriolar diameter produce dramatic effects on blood flow. Total peripheral resistance, the collective resistance of all arterioles in the systemic circulation, determines diastolic blood pressure and influences mean arterial pressure. When arterioles throughout the body constrict, total peripheral resistance increases, elevating blood pressure even if cardiac output remains unchanged. Conversely, widespread arteriolar dilation reduces peripheral resistance and lowers blood pressure. Different organ systems demonstrate varying patterns of arteriolar control that reflect their specific functional requirements. Skeletal muscle arterioles show dramatic changes in diameter during exercise, with resistance vessels dilating up to fourfold to accommodate the increased blood flow needed for muscle contraction. This dilation is mediated primarily by metabolic factors, with exercise-induced changes in tissue oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH overriding sympathetic vasoconstrictor tone. Cutaneous arterioles serve primarily thermoregulatory functions, with their diameter controlled mainly by sympathetic neural input responding to core body temperature. During heat exposure, sympathetic tone to skin arterioles decreases, allowing vasodilation that promotes heat loss through increased blood flow to the skin surface. During cold exposure, increased sympathetic activity causes cutaneous vasoconstriction, reducing heat loss by decreasing skin blood flow. Renal arterioles demonstrate sophisticated autoregulatory capabilities that maintain relatively constant blood flow across a wide range of perfusion pressures. This autoregulation protects the delicate glomerular filtration apparatus from pressure fluctuations while ensuring consistent kidney function. The mechanism involves both myogenic responses, direct reactions of smooth muscle to pressure changes, and tubuloglomerular feedback based on salt delivery to the distal nephron. Splanchnic arterioles, serving the digestive organs, show marked responses to feeding and fasting states. During digestion, metabolic vasodilation increases blood flow to support the energy-intensive processes of nutrient absorption and hepatic metabolism. Between meals, sympathetic vasoconstriction reduces splanchnic blood flow, making more blood available for other organs. Coronary arterioles maintain blood flow to the heart muscle through predominantly metabolic control mechanisms. The heart's high and relatively constant oxygen consumption means that coronary blood flow must adjust quickly to match any changes in cardiac work. Adenosine, produced when cardiac energy demands exceed supply, serves as the primary metabolic vasodilator in coronary arterioles. Cerebral arterioles maintain relatively constant blood flow through autoregulatory mechanisms that respond to changes in perfusion pressure, carbon dioxide levels, and metabolic demands. The brain's high metabolic rate and limited ability to tolerate ischemia require precise control of cerebral blood flow. Carbon dioxide serves as a particularly powerful regulator of cerebral arterioles, with small increases in CO2 causing significant vasodilation. The microcirculation, the network of arterioles, capillaries, and venules demonstrates remarkable plasticity in response to changing conditions. During chronic increases in tissue metabolic demand, new arterioles can develop through angiogenesis, while existing vessels may undergo remodeling to optimize their structure for altered flow patterns. This adaptation allows the circulation to meet long-term changes in tissue requirements. Pathological conditions can disrupt normal arteriolar function, leading to inadequate tissue perfusion despite normal cardiac output. Hypertension often involves inappropriate arteriolar vasoconstriction that elevates peripheral resistance. Diabetes can damage arteriolar structure and function, leading to impaired autoregulation and tissue ischemia. Sepsis causes widespread arteriolar dilation that can lead to circulatory shock despite adequate blood volume. The measurement of blood pressure reflects arteriolar function throughout the body. Systolic pressure depends primarily on cardiac output and arterial compliance, while diastolic pressure is largely determined by peripheral resistance, primarily arteriolar tone. The difference between systolic and diastolic pressure, called pulse pressure, reflects the interaction between stroke volume and arterial stiffness. Exercise physiology reveals the remarkable adaptability of arteriolar control systems. During physical activity, the sympathetic nervous system initially causes widespread arteriolar vasoconstriction, but this is quickly overridden by local metabolic factors in active muscles. The result is a redistribution of blood flow that can increase muscle perfusion by 15 to 20-fold, while maintaining adequate flow to vital organs like the brain and heart. The phenomenon of reactive hyperemia demonstrates arteriolar responsiveness to tissue needs. When blood flow to a tissue is temporarily interrupted, arterioles dilate maximally due to the accumulation of metabolic vasodilators. When flow is restored, the initial surge exceeds normal baseline levels, helping to repay the oxygen debt incurred during the ischemic period. This response illustrates the tight coupling between tissue metabolic needs and arteriolar function. Aging affects arteriolar structure and function in ways that contribute to cardiovascular disease. The smooth muscle cells in arteriolar walls undergo changes that reduce their responsiveness to vasodilator signals while maintaining or even enhancing their response to vasoconstrictors. This shift toward increased vascular tone contributes to the rise in blood pressure commonly seen with aging. Environmental factors can significantly influence arteriolar function. Altitude exposure initially causes widespread arteriolar constriction due to hypoxia, but chronic exposure leads to adaptive changes, including increased vasodilator responsiveness and enhanced capillary density. Temperature extremes trigger thermoregulatory responses, primarily through changes in cutaneous arteriolar tone, but prolonged exposure can also affect deeper vascular beds. Circadian rhythms influence arteriolar tone and blood pressure regulation. Many people experience higher blood pressure in the morning due to increased sympathetic activity and cortisol levels, while blood pressure typically decreases during sleep due to reduced neural and hormonal vasoconstrictor influences. These daily variations reflect the integration of arteriolar control with the body's overall circadian regulatory systems. The study of arteriolar function has revealed fundamental principles of cardiovascular regulation that apply across species and organ systems. The mathematical relationships governing flow, pressure, and resistance remain constant, while the specific control mechanisms vary to meet the unique needs of different tissues. This combination of universal physical principles with specialized regulatory adaptations creates the remarkable efficiency and adaptability of the circulatory system. This exquisite level of control sets the stage for the ultimate destination of circulating blood, the capillaries, where the actual purpose of circulation is fulfilled through the exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste products between blood and tissues. The precision with which arterioles regulate flow becomes even more impressive when we understand that they are directing blood toward exchange vessels so small and delicate that the slightest miscalculation could compromise the very processes that sustain cellular life. In the deepest recesses of your tissues, where the grand highways of circulation finally reach their ultimate destination, lies a network of vessels so delicate and microscopic that they escaped scientific observation until the invention of powerful microscopes. The capillaries, numbering in the tens of billions throughout your body, represent the true purpose of the entire circulatory system. Here, in these exchange zones, barely visible to the naked eye, the essential transactions of life take place as oxygen and nutrients pass from blood to tissues while waste products journey in the opposite direction. As you rest quietly, blood flows through approximately 10 billion capillaries in your body, each one a microscopic tube measuring only 5 to 10 micrometers in diameter, so narrow that red blood cells must squeeze through in single file, often deforming their flexible membranes to navigate these tight passages. Yet despite their diminutive size, capillaries possess a combined length of approximately 25,000 miles and a total surface area of roughly 6,300 square meters, about the size of a tennis court, spread throughout your body. The structure of capillaries reflects their specialized function as exchange vessels. Unlike arteries and veins with their complex multi-layered walls, capillaries consist of little more than a single layer of endothelial cells wrapped in a thin basement membrane. This minimalist design reduces the distance between flowing blood and surrounding tissues to less than zero point 0.5 micrometers, facilitating rapid diffusion of gases, nutrients, and waste products. Capillary endothelial cells are among the most specialized in the body, varying significantly in structure and function depending on the tissues they serve. In the brain, these cells form tight junctions that create the blood-brain barrier, preventing potentially harmful substances from entering neural tissue while allowing essential nutrients to pass through specialized transport mechanisms. In contrast, liver capillaries have large gaps between endothelial cells, permitting the passage of proteins and other large molecules necessary for hepatic function. The spacing between endothelial cells creates different types of capillaries suited to specific functions. Continuous capillaries, found in muscle, brain, and lung tissue, have no gaps between cells, requiring substances to pass through the cells themselves or through very small intercellular clefts. Fenestrated capillaries, present in organs requiring rapid exchange, like the kidneys and intestines, contain small pores or fenestrae that allow faster movement of water and small solutes. Discontinuous capillaries, found primarily in the liver, bone marrow, and spleen, have large gaps that permit the passage of cells and large proteins. Blood flow through capillaries operates according to principles quite different from those governing larger vessels. The narrow diameter and slow flow velocity, approximately 0.5 millimeters per second compared to 40 centimeters per second in the aorta, create conditions ideal for diffusion-based exchange. This slow transit allows red blood cells to spend several seconds in close contact with tissue, providing ample time for oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange. The regulation of capillary blood flow occurs primarily through changes in the diameter of upstream arterioles, but capillaries themselves possess some capacity for diameter adjustment through the contraction of pericyte, specialized cells that wrap around capillary walls. These cells can alter capillary diameter in response to local conditions, fine-tuning the exchange surface area available to tissues. Not all capillaries carry blood at all times. In Mino, many capillary beds contain metarterioles vessels intermediate between arterioles and true capillaries that can divert blood directly to venules through arteriovenous shunts when tissue demands are low. This arrangement, controlled by precapillary sphincters, allows tissues to adjust their functional capillary density based on metabolic needs, ensuring efficient use of the available blood supply. Diffusion represents the primary mechanism for substance exchange across capillary walls. This passive process depends on concentration gradients, with substances moving from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. Oxygen, with its higher concentration in arterial blood than in tissues, diffuses outward into cells. Carbon dioxide follows the reverse path, moving from tissues where it's produced into the blood for transport to the lungs. The efficiency of diffusion depends on several factors, including the concentration gradient, the distance substances must travel, the surface area available for exchange, and the permeability of the capillary wall to specific substances. The capillary design optimizes all these factors, maximizing surface area while minimizing diffusion distance and tailoring permeability to tissue-specific needs. Small lipid-soluble molecules like oxygen and carbon dioxide cross capillary walls easily by dissolving directly through endothelial cell membranes. Water-soluble substances must navigate through intercellular clefts or specialized transport mechanisms. Large molecules like proteins generally cannot cross intact capillary walls, though specific organs may have adaptations that permit their passage. Bulk flow represents another mechanism of capillary exchange, involving the movement of fluid and dissolved substances across capillary walls due to pressure differences. The balance between hydrostatic pressure, which pushes fluid out of capillaries, and osmotic pressure, which draws fluid in, determines the net direction of fluid movement. This relationship, described by Starling's law, governs tissue fluid balance and lymph formation. At the arterial end of capillaries, hydrostatic pressure typically exceeds osmotic pressure, resulting in net filtration of fluid into tissues. As blood progresses through the capillary bed, hydrostatic pressure falls, while osmotic pressure remains relatively constant, eventually leading to net reabsorption of fluid at the venous end. This process ensures tissue hydration while preventing excessive fluid accumulation. The lymphatic system plays a crucial role in maintaining capillary exchange balance by collecting excess tissue fluid and returning it to the circulation. When capillary filtration exceeds reabsorption, the resulting interstitial fluid is gathered by lymphatic capillaries and eventually returned to the bloodstream through the thoracic duct. This system prevents tissue edema while also serving immune functions by filtering tissue fluid through lymph nodes. Capillary density varies dramatically among different tissues, reflecting their metabolic demands and functional requirements. Cardiac muscle, with its enormous oxygen consumption, contains approximately 3,000 capillaries per square millimeter. Skeletal muscle, particularly oxidative fibers, also has high capillary density to support aerobic metabolism. In contrast, tissues like cartilage and the cornea are avascular, receiving nutrients through diffusion from nearby capillary beds. The brain's capillary network demonstrates remarkable specialization for neural tissue requirements. Cerebral capillaries maintain the blood-brain barrier while providing for the brain's high metabolic demands, consuming 20% of the body's oxygen and glucose, despite comprising only 2% of body weight. The tight junctions between endothelial cells prevent most substances from entering brain tissue, while specialized transporters facilitate the movement of glucose, amino acids, and other essential nutrients. Muscle capillaries show dramatic adaptations to exercise training. Regular endurance exercise increases capillary density through angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels, improving the muscle's capacity for oxygen extraction and waste removal. This adaptation occurs over weeks to months of training and represents one of the most important physiological improvements associated with cardiovascular fitness. Pulmonary capillaries face unique challenges in facilitating gas exchange while maintaining structural integrity under varying pressures. These capillaries are embedded in alveolar walls, creating an extremely thin barrier less than zero point 0.3 micrometers between air and blood. This arrangement maximizes gas exchange efficiency, while the extensive capillary network ensures adequate perfusion of all alveolar surfaces. Renal capillaries include specialized structures adapted for filtration and reabsorption. Glomerular capillaries, with their fenestrated endothelium and high hydrostatic pressure, filter large volumes of plasma to form the initial urine filtrate. Peritubular capillaries surrounding nephron tubules facilitate the reabsorption of water, electrolytes, and nutrients from the filtrate back into the bloodstream. Hepatic capillaries, called sinusoids, represent the most permeable capillaries in the body. These discontinuous capillaries allow plasma proteins, lipoproteins, and even cells to pass between blood and hepatic tissue. This permeability is essential for liver functions, including protein synthesis, lipid metabolism, and detoxification processes that require close contact between blood and hepatocytes. Skin capillaries participate in both nutrient delivery and thermoregulation. Dermal capillary beds can accommodate dramatic changes in blood flow from minimal flow during cold exposure to greatly increased flow during heat stress. This versatility allows skin to serve its dual roles as a protective barrier and a heat exchange organ. Intestinal capillaries demonstrate specializations for nutrient absorption. The extensive capillary networks in intestinal villi maximize the surface area available for absorbing digested nutrients. These capillaries are highly permeable to glucose, amino acids, and other small molecules, while maintaining selective barriers for potentially harmful substances. Capillary recruitment represents an important mechanism for matching blood flow to tissue needs. During increased metabolic demand, previously unperfused capillaries open through relaxation of precapillary sphincters, increasing the surface area available for exchange without necessarily increasing total blood flow proportionally. This mechanism allows tissues to improve their extraction of oxygen and nutrients from the available blood supply. Pathological conditions can severely impair capillary function and exchange. Diabetes damages capillary walls throughout the body, leading to increased permeability and impaired exchange efficiency. This damage is particularly problematic in the kidneys, retina, and peripheral nerves, where it can cause serious complications. Hypertension can cause capillary wall thickening and reduced permeability, compromising tissue nutrition. Inflammation dramatically alters capillary function, increasing permeability to allow immune cells and proteins to enter tissues. While this response is essential for fighting infection and promoting healing, excessive or prolonged inflammation can compromise normal capillary exchange and contribute to tissue damage. Age-related changes in capillary structure and function contribute to declining organ performance over time. Capillary density may decrease in some tissues, while capillary walls may thicken, reducing exchange efficiency. These changes partly explain why cardiovascular fitness and organ function typically decline with advancing age. The measurement of capillary function in clinical settings remains challenging due to the microscopic size and widespread distribution of these vessels. However, techniques like nail fold capillaroscopy allow direct visualization of skin capillaries, while various physiological tests can assess overall capillary exchange function indirectly. Environmental factors influence capillary function significantly. Altitude exposure stimulates angiogenesis, increasing capillary density to improve oxygen extraction in low oxygen environments. Temperature affects capillary permeability and flow patterns, with cold exposure reducing exchange efficiency, while heat exposure increases it. The integration of capillary function with overall cardiovascular regulation ensures that these exchange vessels operate optimally under varying conditions. Neural and hormonal factors that control heart rate and arterial pressure also influence capillary perfusion patterns, while local metabolic factors ensure that capillary exchange matches tissue needs. As we contemplate these billions of microscopic exchange zones operating silently throughout your body, the elegant simplicity of their design becomes apparent. Stripped of all non essential structures, capillaries represent biological engineering at its most efficient single cell thick barriers that separate flowing blood from living tissues by mere fractions of a micrometer. Yet within this simple structure lies the fundamental purpose of the entire circulatory system: the delivery of life-sustaining substances to every cell and the removal of metabolic waste products that would otherwise accumulate and compromise cellular function. The completion of this exchange process marks the beginning of blood's return journey to the heart as waste-laden, oxygen-depleted blood enters the venous system that will carry it back through progressively larger vessels until it once again reaches the cardiac chambers that began this cycle. This return pathway faces unique challenges in moving blood against gravity and maintaining flow despite much lower pressures, requiring specialized adaptations we will explore next. After completing their essential mission in the capillary exchange zones, red blood cells begin a vastly different journey back to the heart. No longer bright red with oxygen, they now carry carbon dioxide and metabolic waste through a network designed for an entirely different challenge: returning blood to the heart against gravity with only a fraction of the pressure that drove them through the arterial system. The venous circulation represents one of biology's most elegant solutions to low-pressure fluid return, utilizing ingenious mechanical principles and physiological adaptations to ensure blood completes its circular journey. As you rest quietly, approximately 70% of your blood volume resides within the venous system, making veins the primary reservoirs of circulating blood. This vast venous capacity serves as more than simple storage. It provides a buffer that can be mobilized quickly when increased cardiac output is needed while accommodating blood volume changes without dramatic pressure fluctuations. The venous return begins in venules, the smallest vessels measuring 8 to 100 micrometers in diameter. These tiny vessels collect blood from capillary beds with very thin walls containing minimal smooth muscle, reflecting the low pressures they handle. Unlike their arterial counterparts, venules allow easy exchange of white blood cells, which can squeeze between endothelial cells to enter tissues during inflammatory responses. As venules merge and grow larger, they develop more muscular walls and begin to resemble small veins. Medium-sized veins develop valves, crucial one-way structures that prevent backflow and assist in maintaining forward flow despite low driving pressures. These delicate, leaflet-like structures form pockets that fill with blood when flow reverses, effectively sealing the vessel and preventing retrograde movement. Venous valves represent one of circulation's most crucial adaptations for upright posture. Most numerous in legs and arms, where they must work against gravity, these valves allow unimpeded forward flow while preventing backflow that would compromise venous return. When blood flows toward the heart, valve leaflets flatten against vessel walls. When flow stops or reverses, blood fills the valve pockets, pushing leaflets together to create an effective seal. Large veins, like the vena cavae, have relatively thick walls compared to smaller veins, though much thinner than comparable arteries. The superior vena cava collects blood from head, neck, arms, and upper chest, while the inferior vena cava drains abdomen, pelvis, and legs. Together, they return the entire cardiac output to the right atrium with each circulation cycle. The driving force for venous return operates on entirely different principles than arterial flow. While arterial circulation relies on high pressure from ventricular contraction, venous return depends on much lower pressures supplemented by several auxiliary mechanisms. Central venous pressure near the heart typically measures only 2 to 8 millimes Hg compared to arterial pressures of 90 to 100 millimes mass. The skeletal muscle pump provides one of the most important mechanisms supporting venous return. When muscles contract, they compress veins running between them, squeezing blood toward the heart. Venous valves ensure compressed blood flows only in the cardiac direction. When muscles relax, veins refill from peripheral vessels, setting up the next pumping cycle. This mechanism becomes particularly important during exercise when muscle contractions increase in frequency and force. The respiratory pump represents another crucial mechanism for enhancing venous return. During inspiration, chest cavity expansion reduces pressure around the heart and great veins, creating suction that draws blood toward the heart. Simultaneously, diaphragm descent increases abdominal pressure, compressing abdominal veins and pushing blood toward the thorax. This coupling of breathing with venous return ensures respiratory activity assists circulation. Venous compliance, the ability to expand and accommodate increased blood volume, far exceeds arterial compliance. This high compliance allows veins to serve as volume reservoirs, accommodating blood volume changes with minimal pressure changes. When blood volume increases, veins expand to hold extra volume. When it decreases, veins contract to maintain adequate venous return despite reduced total volume. The sympathetic nervous system provides neural control over venous function, particularly in larger veins with significant smooth muscle. Sympathetic stimulation causes venoconstriction, reducing venous capacity and mobilizing blood toward the heart. This mechanism becomes important during stress, exercise, or blood loss when maintaining adequate venous return is crucial for cardiovascular stability. Different venous systems demonstrate specialized adaptations. Portal venous systems, like the hepatic portal system carrying blood from intestines to liver, represent unique arrangements where blood passes through two capillary beds before returning to the heart. This design allows specialized processing of absorbed nutrients before they enter general circulation. The hepatic portal system collects blood from stomach, intestines, spleen, and pancreas, carrying it to the liver for processing. Portal veins lack valves, as constant blood production from intestinal capillaries provides adequate driving pressure. This system ensures absorbed nutrients and potential toxins are processed by hepatic enzymes before reaching other tissues. Cerebral venous drainage demonstrates adaptations for the skull's unique environment. Brain veins drain into large venous sinuses, spaces between dura mater layers, serving as venous reservoirs. These sinuses eventually drain into jugular veins, returning blood to the heart. The rigid skull prevents usual venous compliance mechanisms, requiring specialized adaptations for cerebral blood volume changes. Venous return varies significantly with body position due to gravitational effects. In supine position, venous return is facilitated by eliminating gravitational pressure gradients. When standing upright, gravity opposes return from vessels below heart level while assisting return from above. Venous valves and muscle pump mechanisms become crucial for maintaining adequate circulation in upright position. Exercise produces dramatic changes in venous function. Active muscle contraction enhances the muscle pump, while increased respiratory rate improves the respiratory pump mechanism. Sympathetic activation causes venoconstriction, mobilizing venous blood reserves. These mechanisms can increase venous return several fold, supporting increased cardiac output required for exercise. Temperature affects venous function significantly. Heat exposure causes venodilation, increasing venous capacity and potentially reducing venous return if blood pools in expanded vessels. Cold exposure produces venoconstriction, reducing capacity and enhancing return. These thermoregulatory changes contribute to cardiovascular adjustments needed for temperature regulation. Pathological conditions can severely impair venous return. Chronic venous insufficiency, often from valve damage, leads to blood pooling in legs and can cause varicose veins, edema, and skin changes. Deep vein thrombosis can block major venous pathways, forcing blood to return through collateral vessels and potentially causing pulmonary embolism if clots break free. Heart failure significantly affects venous function by increasing central venous pressure. This increased downstream pressure reduces the driving gradient for venous return and can lead to venous congestion throughout the body, resulting in edema, hepatic congestion, and elevated jugular venous pressure. Age-related changes in venous structure and function contribute to increased venous problems in older adults. Venous valves may become incompetent, vessel walls may lose elasticity, and muscle pump effectiveness may decline. These changes help explain increased prevalence of venous insufficiency with advancing age. The development of collateral venous circulation demonstrates the venous system's adaptive capacity. When major pathways become blocked, smaller vessels can enlarge and new pathways develop to maintain adequate drainage. This plasticity helps explain why gradual venous occlusion is often better tolerated than sudden blockage. As you lie quietly, your venous system performs this remarkable feat of blood return with elegant efficiency. The muscle pump rests in minimal activity, the respiratory pump gently assists with each breath, and venous valves maintain vigilant watch against backflow. Veins throughout your body expand and contract slightly with each heartbeat, accommodating cyclical blood volume changes while maintaining steady return to the heart. The measurement of venous pressure provides important clinical information about cardiovascular function. Central venous pressure measurement through catheters in large veins indicates right ventricular filling pressure and guides fluid management in critically ill patients. Jugular venous pressure, estimated by observing neck veins, provides non-invasive assessment of right heart function. Gravitational effects on venous return explain many physiological responses to position changes. Orthostatic hypotension blood pressure drops when standing reflects the challenge of maintaining venous return when gravity pools blood in dependent vessels. Normal cardiovascular reflexes quickly compensate through increased heart rate and vasoconstriction. Exercise produces dramatic changes in venous function and return. Active muscle contraction enhances the muscle pump, while increased respiratory rate and depth improve the respiratory pump mechanism. Sympathetic activation causes venoconstriction, mobilizing venous blood reserves. The combination of these mechanisms can increase venous return several fold, supporting the increased cardiac output required for exercise. Temperature affects venous function significantly. Heat exposure causes venodilation, increasing venous capacity and potentially reducing venous return if blood pools in expanded vessels. Cold exposure produces venoconstriction, reducing venous capacity and enhancing return. These thermoregulatory changes in venous function contribute to the cardiovascular adjustments needed for temperature regulation. Pathological conditions can severely impair venous return and function. Chronic venous insufficiency, often resulting from valve damage, leads to blood pooling in the legs and can cause varicose veins, edema, and skin changes. Deep vein thrombosis can block major venous pathways, forcing blood to return through collateral vessels and potentially leading to pulmonary embolism if clots break free. Exercise produces dramatic changes in venous function and return. Active muscle contraction enhances the muscle pump, while increased respiratory rate and depth improve the respiratory pump mechanism. Sympathetic activation causes venoconstriction, mobilizing venous blood reserves. The combination of these mechanisms can increase venous return several fold, supporting the increased cardiac output required for exercise. Temperature affects venous function significantly. Heat exposure causes venodilation, increasing venous capacity and potentially reducing venous return if blood pools in expanded vessels. Cold exposure produces venoconstriction, reducing venous capacity and enhancing return. These thermoregulatory changes in venous function contribute to the cardiovascular adjustments needed for temperature regulation. Pathological conditions can severely impair venous return and function. Chronic venous insufficiency, often resulting from valve damage, leads to blood pooling in the legs and can cause varicose veins, edema, and skin changes. Deep vein thrombosis can block major venous pathways, forcing blood to return through collateral vessels and potentially leading to pulmonary embolism if clots break free. Heart failure significantly affects venous function by increasing central venous pressure. This increased downstream pressure reduces the driving gradient for venous return and can lead to venous congestion throughout the body. The resulting edema, hepatic congestion, and elevated jugular venous pressure reflect the backup of blood in the venous system. Age-related changes in venous structure and function contribute to increased susceptibility to venous problems in older adults. Venous valves may become incompetent, vessel walls may lose elasticity, and the effectiveness of muscle pump mechanisms may decline. These changes help explain the increased prevalence of venous insufficiency and related problems with advancing age. The measurement of venous pressure provides important clinical information about cardiovascular function. Central venous pressure measurement through catheters placed in large veins near the heart indicates the filling pressure of the right ventricle and can guide fluid management in critically ill patients. Jugular venous pressure, estimated by observing the jugular veins in the neck, provides a non-invasive assessment of right heart function. Venous blood sampling represents one of the most common medical procedures, taking advantage of the low pressure and large size of peripheral veins. The choice of sampling site considers factors like vessel accessibility, patient comfort, and the specific tests being performed. The relatively low pressure in veins makes them suitable for procedures that would be dangerous in high pressure arteries. The development of collateral venous circulation demonstrates the adaptive capacity of the venous system. When major venous pathways become blocked, smaller vessels can enlarge, and new pathways can develop to maintain adequate drainage. This plasticity helps explain why gradual venous occlusion is often better tolerated than sudden blockage. Gravitational effects on venous return explain many of the physiological responses to position changes. The phenomenon of orthostatic hypotension, a drop in blood pressure upon standing, reflects the challenge of maintaining venous return when gravitational forces pool blood in dependent vessels. Normal cardiovascular reflexes quickly compensate for this challenge through increased heart rate and vasoconstriction. As you lie quietly, your venous system is performing this remarkable feat of blood return with elegant efficiency. The muscle pump rests in a state of minimal activity. The respiratory pump gently assists flow with each breath, and venous valves maintain their vigilant watch against backflow. Veins throughout your body expand and contract slightly with each heartbeat, accommodating the cyclical changes in blood volume while maintaining steady return to the heart. This return journey, from the microscopic venules to the great vena cavae, represents the completion of circulation's fundamental purpose. Blood that began its journey, carrying oxygen and nutrients, now returns, bearing carbon dioxide and metabolic waste, ready to be processed by the lungs and other organs before beginning another cycle. The pressures that drive this remarkable system and the mechanisms that regulate them reveal the sophisticated engineering principles underlying all cardiovascular function. The gentle rhythm you feel in your chest represents far more than simple muscular contraction. It is the generator of the pressure waves that drive blood through every vessel in your body. Blood pressure, that familiar measurement taken at medical visits, reflects one of the most fundamental forces governing circulation. Understanding these pressure dynamics reveals how a pump weighing less than a pound can drive fluid through 60,000 miles of vessels, overcoming gravity, friction, and countless other obstacles to deliver life-sustaining nutrients to every cell. Pressure, in the context of circulation, represents the force that blood exerts against vessel walls. This force originates from the heart's contractions, but is modified, transmitted, and regulated throughout the vascular system through complex mechanisms that ensure adequate perfusion of all tissues. The measurement and regulation of blood pressure involves some of the most sophisticated feedback systems in human physiology, continuously adjusting to meet changing demands while maintaining the delicate balance necessary for optimal function. Systolic pressure represents the peak pressure reached during ventricular contraction, typically measuring around 120 mmHg in healthy adults. This pressure reflects several factors: the force of ventricular contraction, the volume of blood ejected with each heartbeat, and the compliance of the arterial system. When the left ventricle contracts forcefully, it ejects approximately 70 milliliters of blood into the aorta in less than one-third of a second, creating a pressure wave that spreads throughout the arterial system. The aortic valve opens when ventricular pressure exceeds aortic pressure, allowing blood to surge into the arterial system. This sudden injection of blood into the already blood-filled aorta causes the vessel to expand, storing some of the energy from ventricular contraction in the stretched arterial walls. This Windkessel effect, named after the air chambers used to smooth pressure in old fire engines, converts the pulsatile output of the heart into more continuous flow in peripheral vessels. Diastolic pressure, the lower reading typically around 80 mmHg, represents the pressure maintained in arteries during ventricular relaxation. This pressure depends primarily on the total peripheral resistance and the collective resistance of all arterioles in the systemic circulation and the rate at which blood flows out of the arterial system into capillaries and veins. The elastic recoil of arterial walls during diastole helps maintain this pressure, ensuring continuous forward flow even when the heart is filling rather than ejecting. Pulse pressure, the difference between systolic and diastolic pressures, reflects the interaction between stroke volume and arterial compliance. A typical pulse pressure of 40 mmHg indicates that arterial pressure rises 40 mmHg above its diastolic baseline with each heartbeat. Increased pulse pressure can result from either increased stroke volume or decreased arterial compliance, while reduced pulse pressure may indicate decreased stroke volume or increased arterial stiffness. Mean arterial pressure represents the average pressure in arteries throughout the cardiac cycle, calculated not as a simple average, but weighted toward diastolic pressure since diastole lasts longer than systole. This pressure, typically around 93 mmHg, serves as the driving force for tissue perfusion and is regulated more tightly than either systolic or diastolic pressure individually. Mean arterial pressure must be sufficient to ensure adequate blood flow to vital organs, particularly the brain and kidneys. The pressure gradient from arteries to veins drives blood flow throughout the circulation. This gradient begins at mean arterial pressure in large arteries and falls progressively through arterioles, capillaries, and veins until reaching near zero in the great veins near the heart. The steepest pressure drop occurs across arterioles, which offer the greatest resistance to flow and serve as the primary regulators of both tissue blood flow and systemic blood pressure. Arteriolar resistance follows the physical principles described by Poiseuille's law, with resistance being inversely proportional to the fourth power of vessel radius. This mathematical relationship explains why small changes in arteriolar diameter produce dramatic effects on both local blood flow and systemic pressure. When arterioles throughout the body constrict simultaneously, total peripheral resistance increases, elevating blood pressure even without changes in cardiac output. The regulation of blood pressure involves multiple overlapping systems operating on different timescales. Short-term regulation, occurring within seconds to minutes, relies primarily on neural mechanisms mediated by the autonomic nervous system. Baroreceptors, located in the carotid sinuses and aortic arch, detect changes in arterial pressure and send signals to cardiovascular control centers in the medulla oblongata. These pressure-sensitive receptors increase their firing rate when arterial pressure rises and decrease firing when pressure falls. The cardiovascular control center processes this information and adjusts autonomic output accordingly. When blood pressure rises, Increased baroreceptor firing triggers decreased sympathetic activity and increased parasympathetic activity, resulting in reduced heart rate, decreased contractility, and arterial vasodilation that returns pressure toward normal. Conversely, when blood pressure falls, reduced baroreceptor firing leads to increased sympathetic activity and decreased parasympathetic tone. This produces increased heart rate, enhanced contractility, and widespread vasoconstriction that elevates pressure back toward the normal range. These baroreceptor reflexes operate continuously, making moment-to-moment adjustments to maintain pressure stability despite changing demands. Chemoreceptors in the carotid and aortic bodies provide additional neural input to pressure regulation, though their primary function involves respiratory control. When oxygen levels fall or carbon dioxide levels rise significantly, these receptors trigger responses that include cardiovascular effects, increased heart rate, and vasoconstriction that help maintain oxygen delivery to vital organs. Intermediate-term pressure regulation, operating over minutes to hours, involves hormonal mechanisms that adjust both cardiac function and vascular resistance. The sympathodrenal system releases epinephrine and norepinephrine from the adrenal medulla during stress or exercise, producing effects similar to direct sympathetic stimulation but lasting longer due to hormonal persistence in the bloodstream. The renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system represents one of the most important hormonal regulators of blood pressure. When blood pressure falls or blood volume decreases, the kidneys release renin, an enzyme that initiates a cascade resulting in the production of angiotensin II. This powerful hormone causes vasoconstriction while also stimulating aldosterone release from the adrenal cortex, promoting sodium and water retention that increases blood volume and pressure. Angiotensin II affects multiple aspects of pressure regulation simultaneously. It directly constricts arterioles, increasing peripheral resistance. It stimulates aldosterone release, promoting fluid retention. It enhances sympathetic nervous system activity and increases vasopressin release. It also stimulates thirst and salt appetite, encouraging behaviors that increase blood volume. This multifaceted response makes the renin-angiotensin system particularly effective for pressure regulation during volume depletion. Vasopressin, also called antidiuretic hormone, provides another hormonal mechanism for pressure regulation. Released from the posterior pituitary in response to increased plasma osmolality or decreased blood volume, vasopressin promotes water retention by the kidneys while also causing vasoconstriction. This dual action helps maintain blood pressure during dehydration or blood loss. Atrial natriuretic peptide represents a counterregulatory hormone that opposes excessive pressure elevation, released from stretched atrial muscle cells. When blood volume or pressure becomes elevated, this hormone promotes sodium and water excretion by the kidneys while also causing vasodilation. This provides a natural brake on pressure elevation and helps prevent fluid overload. Long-term pressure regulation, operating over days to weeks, depends primarily on renal mechanisms that control blood volume. The kidneys adjust sodium and water excretion based on pressure levels, using the principle that long-term blood pressure must equal the level at which sodium intake equals sodium excretion. If pressure rises, increased renal perfusion enhances sodium excretion, reducing blood volume and pressure. If pressure falls, decreased excretion retains fluid, increasing volume and pressure. This renal mechanism provides the ultimate determinant of long-term blood pressure levels. While neural and hormonal systems can modify pressure temporarily, sustained changes in blood pressure require alterations in the kidney's pressure-natriuresis relationship. This explains why most chronic hypertension involves either increased renal sodium retention or resistance to the pressure-natriuresis mechanism. Local pressure regulation allows individual tissues to maintain adequate perfusion despite changes in systemic pressure. Autoregulation mechanisms adjust local vascular resistance to maintain relatively constant blood flow across a range of perfusion pressures. This is particularly important in organs like the brain and kidneys, where consistent blood flow is crucial for proper function. Cerebral autoregulation maintains brain blood flow across mean arterial pressures from approximately 60 to 150 mmHg. Below this range, cerebral blood flow decreases, potentially causing symptoms of inadequate brain perfusion. Above this range, autoregulation fails, and excessive cerebral blood flow can cause cerebral edema and other complications. Renal autoregulation operates through both myogenic mechanisms, where smooth muscle responds directly to pressure changes, and tubuloglomerular feedback, where specialized cells in the nephron adjust afferent arterial resistance based on sodium delivery to the distal tubule. This dual mechanism maintains relatively constant glomerular filtration despite fluctuations in systemic blood pressure. Among all the specialized circulatory pathways in your body, none is more critical than the network of vessels that nourish the heart itself. The coronary circulation represents a remarkable example of biological engineering, designed to supply oxygen and nutrients to muscle that never rests, never takes a break, and demands a continuous supply of energy to maintain its life-sustaining rhythm. As your heart beats steadily in the quiet of this moment, its own blood supply flows through vessels that must operate under unique conditions, facing challenges unlike those encountered anywhere else in the circulatory system. The coronary arteries arise directly from the aortic root, just above the cusps of the aortic valve, ensuring they receive the highest possible pressure and flow. This strategic placement reflects the critical importance of cardiac perfusion. The heart muscle gets first claim on freshly oxygenated blood. Yet, this privileged position comes with unique challenges, as these vessels must fill during diastole when the aortic valve is closed, creating timing constraints not faced by other organs. The left main coronary artery emerges from the left aortic sinus and travels briefly before dividing into two major branches. This short but crucial vessel carries approximately 85% of the blood flow to the left ventricle, the heart's primary pump for systemic circulation. Any significant narrowing of the left main artery poses immediate threat to a large portion of the heart muscle. The left anterior descending artery travels down the anterior interventricular groove toward the cardiac apex. This vessel supplies blood to the anterior wall of the left ventricle, the anterior interventricular septum, and often the cardiac apex. Septal branches arise from the LAD at regular intervals, diving into the muscular wall separating the ventricles. The left circumflex artery travels in the left atrioventricular groove, wrapping around the left side of the heart to supply the lateral and posterior walls of the left ventricle. Obtuse marginal branches from the circumflex supply the lateral wall, ensuring adequate perfusion of this important region. The right coronary artery originates from the right aortic sinus and travels in the right atrioventricular groove, supplying the right ventricle, right atrium, and in most people, the inferior wall of the left ventricle through the posterior descending artery. The RCA also gives rise to acute marginal branches that supply the right ventricular free wall. Coronary dominance refers to which artery gives rise to the posterior descending artery. Right dominance occurs in about 85% of people, with the PDA arising from the RCA. Left dominance, seen in about 10% of individuals, involves the PDA arising from the left circumflex. This anatomical variation influences clinical presentation and treatment of coronary disease. The coronary microcirculation includes dense networks of arterioles, capillaries, and venules. Coronary capillary density is among the highest in the body, with approximately 3,000 to 4,000 capillaries per square millimeter of cardiac muscle. This reflects the enormous metabolic demands of cardiac muscle, which extracts about 75% of oxygen from coronary blood, much higher than the 25% extraction typical of other organs. Coronary blood flow exhibits unique patterns differing markedly from other vascular beds. During systole, when heart muscle contracts forcefully, intramyocardial pressure compresses coronary vessels, particularly those supplying the left ventricle. This compression can completely stop flow in subendocardial vessels during peak systole, making the heart dependent on diastolic perfusion. This dependence on diastolic perfusion makes coronary circulation uniquely sensitive to diastolic pressure and duration. Conditions reducing diastolic pressure, such as aortic regurgitation or severe hypotension, can compromise coronary perfusion despite normal systolic pressures. Similarly, tachycardia that significantly shortens diastolic time can impair coronary filling. Metabolic regulation dominates coronary blood flow control, with local factors adjusting perfusion to match the heart's oxygen demands. Adenosine, produced when cardiac energy stores become depleted, serves as the primary metabolic vasodilator. When cardiac work increases and oxygen consumption rises, adenosine production increases proportionally, dilating coronary arterioles and increasing blood flow. Other metabolic factors contribute to coronary flow regulation, including decreased oxygen levels, increased carbon dioxide, reduced pH, and elevated potassium concentrations. These factors work synergistically to ensure coronary flow increases whenever cardiac oxygen demand rises, whether due to increased heart rate, enhanced contractility, or elevated afterload. Neural control involves both sympathetic and parasympathetic influences, though metabolic factors usually override neural effects. Sympathetic stimulation directly causes coronary vasoconstriction through alpha adrenergic receptors, but this is typically overwhelmed by metabolic vasodilation resulting from increased cardiac work. Coronary flow reserve represents the ability to increase flow above resting levels when demand rises. Normal coronary arteries can increase flow by 4 to 5 times resting levels through arteriolar dilation and capillary recruitment. This reserve ensures adequate oxygen delivery during exercise or stress. Coronary artery disease reduces this reserve, potentially leading to ischemia during increased demand even when resting flow appears adequate. Collateral circulation provides backup perfusion pathways that can develop when major vessels become narrowed or blocked. These connections between different coronary branches are minimal in normal hearts, but can enlarge significantly in response to chronic ischemia. Well-developed collaterals can sometimes provide adequate perfusion even when major coronary arteries are severely stenosed. Coronary venous drainage occurs primarily through the coronary sinus, which collects blood from most of the left ventricular myocardium and empties directly into the right atrium. The great cardiac vein parallels the left anterior descending artery, while the posterior vein drains the posterior wall. Some coronary venous blood bypasses the coronary sinus through Thebesian veins, small vessels draining directly into cardiac chambers. Coronary blood flow varies considerably throughout the cardiac cycle and responds dynamically to workload changes. At rest, coronary flow is approximately 250 milliliters per minute, representing about 5% of cardiac output. During maximal exercise, coronary flow can increase to over 1,000 milliliters per minute, responding to increased oxygen demands. Oxygen extraction from coronary blood is remarkably efficient, with coronary venous oxygen saturation typically around 30% compared to 75% in mixed venous blood from other tissues. This high extraction ratio means increases in myocardial oxygen demand must be met primarily by increases in coronary blood flow rather than increased extraction, emphasizing the critical importance of maintaining adequate coronary perfusion. Coronary artery disease represents the leading cause of death globally, primarily through atherosclerotic plaque formation that narrows coronary arteries. When plaques rupture, they can trigger acute thrombosis that completely occludes coronary arteries, causing myocardial infarction. Risk factors include smoking, diabetes, hypertension, and dyslipidemia, though genetic predisposition also plays important roles. Treatment involves multiple approaches, including medical therapy, to reduce risk factors and improve coronary flow, percutaneous interventions like angioplasty and stenting to open narrowed arteries, and surgical revascularization through coronary artery bypass grafting. Prevention emphasizes lifestyle modifications, addressing modifiable risk factors, with regular exercise, dietary changes, and smoking cessation providing the greatest benefits. As you rest quietly, your coronary circulation performs its vital function with remarkable efficiency. Each diastolic interval allows fresh blood to flow through coronary arteries into extensive capillary networks, nourishing every cardiac muscle cell. Metabolic factors continuously adjust flow to match the heart's modest demands during rest, while the system stands ready to increase flow several fold should activity levels rise. This specialized circulation exemplifies the sophisticated adaptations, allowing the cardiovascular system to meet unique organ needs. The precise timing of coronary filling, dense capillary networks, powerful metabolic regulation, and potential for collateral development all reflect evolutionary refinements, ensuring adequate perfusion of the body's most critical pump. Throughout your body, specialized circulatory pathways have evolved to meet the unique functional demands of particular organs and physiological processes. These specialized circuits deviate from the standard pattern of blood flow from heart to arteries to capillaries to veins and back to heart, instead creating more complex arrangements that enable specific organs to perform their specialized functions with remarkable efficiency. As you rest quietly, these extraordinary circulatory adaptations continue their vital work, demonstrating the remarkable flexibility of the cardiovascular system in meeting diverse physiological needs. Portal systems represent one of the most fascinating adaptations in circulatory design, where blood passes through two separate capillary beds before returning to the heart. This arrangement allows for specialized processing or transport functions that would be impossible with conventional circulation. The term portal refers to the unique venous connections that link these two capillary networks, creating pathways that enable one organ to directly influence another through blood-borne substances. The hepatic portal system stands as the most prominent and physiologically important portal circulation in the human body. This remarkable network collects blood from the digestive organs, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, pancreas, and spleen, and delivers it directly to the liver for processing before it enters the general circulation. This arrangement ensures that absorbed nutrients, potential toxins, and other substances from the digestive tract are processed by hepatic enzymes before reaching other body tissues. The superior mesenteric vein collects blood from the small intestine and portions of the large intestine, carrying the rich mixture of absorbed nutrients that results from digestion. Amino acids from protein digestion, simple sugars from carbohydrate breakdown, and water-soluble vitamins all enter this venous blood, along with any potentially harmful substances that may have been absorbed. The inferior mesenteric vein drains the distal portions of the large intestine, while the splenic vein carries blood from the spleen and portions of the pancreas and stomach. These venous tributaries converge to form the hepatic portal vein, a unique vessel that functions more like an artery in that it carries blood away from capillary beds rather than toward the heart. This portal vein, measuring approximately 8 centimeters in length and 1.5 centimeters in diameter, delivers about 1.5 liters of blood per minute to the liver, roughly 75% of the liver's total blood supply and about 25% of the heart's total output. Upon entering the liver, the portal vein branches extensively, creating a network of portal venules that distribute blood throughout the hepatic parenchyma. This blood then passes through hepatic sinusoids, specialized capillaries with large fenestrations that allow close contact between blood and hepatocytes. Here, the liver's remarkable metabolic machinery processes absorbed nutrients, detoxifies harmful substances, synthesizes proteins, and performs countless other functions essential for homeostasis. The hepatic sinusoids represent a unique type of capillary designed specifically for the liver's diverse functions. Unlike typical capillaries with their tight endothelial barriers, hepatic sinusoids have large gaps between endothelial cells and lack complete basement membranes. This arrangement allows proteins, lipoproteins, and other large molecules to move freely between blood and hepatocytes, facilitating the liver's role in protein synthesis and lipid metabolism. Kupffer cells, specialized macrophages that line the hepatic sinusoids, provide an important filtration function by removing bacteria, cellular debris, and other particles from portal blood. This immune surveillance function protects the body from potentially harmful substances that may have been absorbed from the intestinal tract, adding another layer of protection to the portal system's processing capabilities. After processing in the hepatic sinusoids, blood collects in central veins within each hepatic lobule, then progresses through hepatic veins that eventually drain into the inferior vena cava. This completes the portal circulation, with blood that began in intestinal capillaries finally reaching the systemic venous system after processing by hepatic tissue. The physiological advantages of the hepatic portal system become apparent when considering the alternative. Without this specialized circulation, absorbed nutrients and toxins would enter the systemic circulation directly, potentially overwhelming other organs before the liver could process them. The portal system ensures first-pass metabolism, where the liver has the first opportunity to modify absorbed substances before they reach other tissues. This first pass effect has important clinical implications, particularly for oral medications. Many drugs undergo significant hepatic metabolism during their first passage through the liver, requiring higher oral doses to achieve therapeutic blood levels. Understanding portal circulation is crucial for proper medication dosing and predicting drug interactions. The hypothalamic pituitary portal system represents another critical portal circulation, though much smaller in scale than the hepatic system. This specialized network connects the hypothalamus to the anterior pituitary gland, allowing hypothalamic releasing and inhibiting hormones to control anterior pituitary function with remarkable precision. The hypothalamic pituitary portal system begins with the superior hypophyseal artery, which branches from the internal carotid artery and supplies the median eminence and infundibular stalk. This artery forms the primary capillary plexus in the median eminence, where hypothalamic neurons release their regulatory hormones directly into the blood. Hypothalamic releasing hormones, including thyrotropin releasing hormone, corticotropin releasing hormone, and growth hormone releasing hormone, enter the portal circulation at this first capillary bed. Portal veins then carry this hormone-rich blood down the pituitary stalk to the anterior pituitary, where they form a secondary capillary plexus that bathes the hormone-producing cells of the adenohypophysis. This portal arrangement allows hypothalamic hormones to reach anterior pituitary cells in high concentrations without being diluted in the general circulation. The direct vascular connection enables rapid and precise control of anterior pituitary hormone secretion, facilitating the complex regulatory cascades that control thyroid function, adrenal cortex activity, growth hormone release, and reproductive hormone cycles. Renal circulation demonstrates another type of specialized circulatory adaptation designed to facilitate the kidney's dual functions of filtration and selective reabsorption. The kidneys receive approximately 20% of cardiac output, roughly 1.2 liters per minute, despite comprising only 1% of body weight. This enormous blood flow reflects the kidney's role in continuously filtering the blood to remove waste products, while precisely regulating fluid and electrolyte balance. The renal arterial system exhibits unique features adapted for filtration function. The main renal artery divides into segmental arteries, then interlobar arteries that travel between renal pyramids, arcuate arteries that run along the corticomedullary junction, and finally, interlobular arteries that extend into the renal cortex. Each interlobular artery gives rise to multiple afferent arterioles that supply individual glomeruli. The glomerular capillaries represent a highly specialized filtration system where blood pressure forces water and solutes across capillary walls into Bowman's capsule, forming the initial urine filtrate. These capillaries maintain higher hydrostatic pressure than typical capillaries due to the resistance of the efferent arteriole that drains each glomerulus. This pressure differential drives the filtration process that produces approximately 180 liters of filtrate per day. After leaving the glomerulus, blood enters the efferent arteriole, which then branches to form the peritubular capillary network that surrounds the nephron tubules. This unique arrangement, where blood passes through two arterioles in series, allows precise control of both glomerular filtration pressure and peritubular capillary pressure. The lower pressure in peritubular capillaries facilitates reabsorption of filtered substances back into the bloodstream. The vasa recta represent specialized capillaries that supply the renal medulla while preserving the concentration gradients essential for urine concentration. These straight vessels dip deep into the medulla parallel to the loops of Henle, forming hairpin loops that minimize washout of the osmotic gradients created by the nephrons. This countercurrent arrangement allows the kidneys to produce concentrated urine when water conservation is needed. Cerebral circulation exhibits numerous specialized adaptations that reflect the brain's unique requirements for consistent perfusion and protection from potentially harmful substances. The brain receives approximately 15% of cardiac output, about 750 milliliters per minute, and maintains this flow level with remarkable consistency despite fluctuations in blood pressure and metabolic demands. The circle of Willis at the base of the brain provides collateral circulation that can maintain cerebral perfusion even if one of the major arteries becomes occluded. This arterial ring connects the internal carotid arteries with the vertebrobasilar system, creating multiple pathways for blood to reach different brain regions. While anatomical variations are common, this system provides crucial backup circulation for the brain's vital functions. Cerebral autoregulation maintains relatively constant brain blood flow across mean arterial pressures from 60 to 150 mmHg. This autoregulation operates through myogenic mechanisms, where cerebral arterioles respond directly to pressure changes, and metabolic mechanisms involving carbon dioxide, oxygen, and pH. The brain's high metabolic rate and limited tolerance for ischemia make this autoregulation essential for proper neurological function. The blood-brain barrier represents a unique adaptation of cerebral capillaries that protects neural tissue from potentially harmful substances while allowing essential nutrients to enter. Tight junctions between cerebral capillary endothelial cells create an effective barrier to most water-soluble substances, requiring specialized transport mechanisms for glucose, amino acids, and other nutrients needed by neural tissue. Pulmonary circulation operates under entirely different pressure conditions than systemic circulation, reflecting the lung's specialized function in gas exchange. The pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle to the lungs at pressures averaging only 15 non-mHg systolic and 8 mmHg diastolic, much lower than systemic arterial pressures. These low pressures protect the delicate alveolar capillaries from damage while maintaining adequate perfusion for gas exchange. Pulmonary capillaries are embedded directly in alveolar walls, creating an extremely thin barrier, less than 0.5 micrometers, between air and blood. This arrangement maximizes gas exchange efficiency, while the extensive capillary network ensures that virtually all alveolar surfaces are perfused. The pulmonary circulation must handle the entire cardiac output while maintaining this delicate balance between adequate perfusion and structural protection. Hypoxic pulmonary vasoconstriction represents a unique adaptation where pulmonary arterioles constrict in response to low oxygen levels, the opposite of the response in systemic circulation. This mechanism diverts blood flow away from poorly ventilated lung regions toward areas with better ventilation, optimizing ventilation perfusion matching and improving overall gas exchange efficiency. The bronchial circulation provides a separate blood supply to the lung tissue itself, including the airways, supporting structures, and pleural surfaces. This systemic circulation operates at normal systemic pressures and drains primarily through bronchial veins, though some bronchial blood may enter pulmonary veins, creating a small physiological right to left shunt. Cutaneous circulation demonstrates remarkable adaptability in serving the dual functions of tissue nutrition and temperature regulation. Skin blood flow can vary from less than 50 milliliters per minute during cold exposure to over 3 liters per minute during severe heat stress, a greater range than any other organ system. This variability reflects the skin's crucial role in maintaining body temperature. Arteriovenous anastomoses in the skin provide direct connections between arterioles and venules that bypass the capillary beds. These shunts, most numerous in the fingers, toes, nose, and ears, can open during heat exposure to increase blood flow to the skin's surface for heat dissipation. During cold exposure, these shunts close to minimize heat loss and preserve core body temperature. The thermoregulatory control of cutaneous circulation involves both local and systemic mechanisms. Local warming causes vasodilation through direct effects on vascular smooth muscle and the release of local mediators. Systemic temperature regulation operates through neural pathways that can override local control, redirecting blood flow based on core body temperature needs rather than local skin temperature. Splanchnic circulation serves the digestive organs and demonstrates dramatic changes in flow based on digestive activity. During fasting, splanchnic blood flow is minimal, but after meals, flow can increase several fold to support the energy-intensive processes of digestion and absorption. This variability allows the cardiovascular system to efficiently allocate blood flow based on functional demands. The hepatic arterial buffer response represents a unique regulatory mechanism where hepatic artery flow adjusts reciprocally to portal vein flow, helping maintain total hepatic blood flow despite variations in portal circulation. When portal flow decreases, hepatic arterial vasodilation compensates by increasing arterial flow. This mechanism helps protect hepatic function during fluctuations in portal circulation. As you rest quietly, these specialized circulatory systems continue their remarkable work throughout your body. The hepatic portal system processes any remaining nutrients from earlier meals. The renal circulation maintains precise fluid and electrolyte balance. Cerebral circulation supplies your brain with the glucose and oxygen needed for consciousness and dreams, and cutaneous circulation adjusts to maintain optimal body temperature in your current environment. These specialized circuits demonstrate the cardiovascular system's remarkable adaptability and precision in meeting diverse physiological needs. Each represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement, creating circulatory arrangements perfectly suited to specific functional requirements. Understanding these specialized pathways reveals how the basic principles of circulation can be modified and adapted to serve the unique needs of different organs and physiological processes, creating the sophisticated and flexible system that sustains complex life. The remarkable adaptability of your circulatory system becomes most evident when your body transitions from rest to activity. During exercise, the cardiovascular system demonstrates its extraordinary capacity to adjust and redistribute blood flow, increasing cardiac output several-fold while precisely directing this enhanced circulation to where it's needed most. As you rest quietly now, your circulatory system operates at its baseline efficiency, yet it stands ready to make dramatic adjustments within moments, should you decide to rise and move. The cardiovascular response to exercise represents one of the most sophisticated examples of physiological integration, involving coordinated adjustments in cardiac function, vascular resistance, blood flow distribution, and metabolic processes. These changes begin even before physical activity starts, as the mere anticipation of exercise triggers preparatory adjustments through central command pathways originating in the motor cortex and related brain areas. Central command refers to the neural signals that descend from higher brain centers to influence cardiovascular control centers in the medulla. When you prepare to exercise, these descending pathways begin adjusting cardiovascular function in anticipation of increased demands. Heart rate starts to rise, cardiac contractility increases, and vascular adjustments begin even before muscles start contracting. This feed-forward mechanism ensures that the circulatory system is prepared to meet increased demands from the moment exercise begins. The onset of exercise triggers immediate cardiovascular adjustments through multiple mechanisms operating simultaneously. The muscle mechanoreflex responds to mechanical deformation of muscle tissue during contraction, sending signals through sensory nerves that influence cardiovascular control centers. The muscle metaboreflex responds to chemical changes in active muscles, decreased oxygen, increased carbon dioxide, elevated potassium, and accumulation of metabolic byproducts, providing feedback that helps match cardiovascular adjustments to metabolic demands. Cardiac output, the amount of blood pumped by the heart each minute, can increase from a resting level of approximately 5 liters per minute to 25 liters per minute or more during maximal exercise in trained individuals. This remarkable increase results from coordinated changes in both heart rate and stroke volume, with the relative contribution of each varying based on exercise intensity and individual fitness level. Heart rate increases from resting levels of 60 to 80 beats per minute to maximum rates that typically range from 180 to 200 beats per minute, depending on age and fitness. This increase occurs through decreased parasympathetic tone and increased sympathetic stimulation, with the sympathetic effects becoming dominant during moderate to intense exercise. The increase in heart rate provides the primary mechanism for increasing cardiac output during light to moderate exercise intensities. Stroke volume, the amount of blood ejected with each heartbeat, also increases during exercise, though the magnitude of increase varies considerably among individuals. Enhanced cardiac contractility due to sympathetic stimulation increases the force of ventricular contraction, allowing more complete emptying of the ventricles. Increased venous return due to the muscle pump and respiratory pump effects provides greater ventricular filling, utilizing the Frank-Starling mechanism to increase stroke volume. The redistribution of blood flow during exercise demonstrates the remarkable precision of cardiovascular control mechanisms. At rest, skeletal muscle receives approximately 20% of cardiac output, but during intense exercise, this can increase to 85% or more. This dramatic redistribution occurs through vasodilation in active muscles combined with vasoconstriction in organs that can temporarily function with reduced blood flow. The cardiovascular system's ability to maintain adequate perfusion of vital organs while dramatically increasing muscle blood flow demonstrates sophisticated regulatory integration. Brain blood flow remains relatively constant during exercise, protected by cerebral autoregulation and the brain's privileged position in blood flow distribution. Coronary blood flow increases in proportion to cardiac work, ensuring adequate oxygen delivery to the heart muscle as its demands increase. Venous return mechanisms become crucial during exercise to support the increased cardiac output. The muscle pump, the squeezing of veins by contracting skeletal muscles, becomes much more active and effective during exercise. Each muscle contraction compresses veins and propels blood toward the heart, while venous valves prevent backflow during muscle relaxation. This mechanism can increase venous return several fold during rhythmic exercise. The respiratory pump also enhances venous return during exercise as breathing becomes deeper and more frequent. The increased pressure changes in the thoracic cavity during exercise breathing create greater suction effects that draw blood toward the heart. Additionally, the increased abdominal pressure during expiration more forcefully compresses abdominal veins, contributing to enhanced venous return. Blood pressure responses to exercise depend on the type, intensity, and duration of activity. During dynamic aerobic exercise, systolic pressure typically increases in proportion to exercise intensity, reflecting the increased cardiac output. Diastolic pressure may remain unchanged or decrease slightly due to the overall decrease in peripheral resistance as muscle vasodilation exceeds vasoconstriction in other organs. Isometric or resistance exercise produces different blood pressure responses with both systolic and diastolic pressures often increasing significantly. This occurs because sustained muscle contractions compress blood vessels within the muscles, increasing peripheral resistance while also triggering strong sympathetic responses. The blood pressure elevations during resistance exercise can be quite substantial, particularly when large muscle groups are involved. The oxygen transport system demonstrates remarkable efficiency improvements during exercise. Despite the dramatic increase in oxygen consumption by active muscles from approximately 250 milliliters per minute at rest to potentially 4,000 milliliters per minute during maximal exercise, the cardiovascular system maintains adequate oxygen delivery through coordinated adjustments in circulation and oxygen extraction. Arterial oxygen content remains relatively stable during exercise in healthy individuals, as the lungs maintain adequate oxygenation despite increased oxygen consumption. However, venous oxygen content decreases significantly as tissues extract more oxygen from the circulating blood. The arteriovenous oxygen difference, the difference between arterial and venous oxygen content, can triple during intense exercise, reflecting the increased efficiency of oxygen extraction. Carbon dioxide removal becomes equally important during exercise as metabolic rate increases and CO2 production rises dramatically. The cardiovascular system transports this excess CO2 to the lungs for elimination, while enhanced ventilation increases the rate of CO2 removal. The integration of cardiovascular and respiratory responses ensures that acid-base balance is maintained despite the increased metabolic acid production during exercise. Temperature regulation during exercise requires additional cardiovascular adjustments as metabolic heat production increases substantially. Initially, skin blood flow may decrease due to sympathetic vasoconstriction, but as body temperature rises, thermoregulatory reflexes override this vasoconstriction. Cutaneous vasodilation and sweating begin, requiring further increases in cardiac output to support both muscle perfusion and heat dissipation. The competing demands of muscle perfusion and thermoregulation can create challenging situations for cardiovascular control, particularly during prolonged exercise in hot environments. The cardiovascular system must balance the need to maintain muscle blood flow for exercise performance, with the need to increase skin blood flow for cooling. When these demands exceed the system's capacity, either exercise performance must decrease or body temperature will rise to potentially dangerous levels. Training adaptations demonstrate the remarkable plasticity of the cardiovascular system in response to regular exercise stimulus. Endurance training produces numerous cardiovascular adaptations that improve the efficiency and capacity of circulation during exercise. These adaptations occur at multiple levels, from changes in cardiac structure and function to modifications in peripheral circulation and metabolic capacity. Cardiac adaptations to training include increased stroke volume at rest and during exercise, improved cardiac contractility, and enhanced diastolic filling. The heart becomes more efficient, able to pump more blood with each beat while maintaining or even reducing heart rate. Maximum heart rate typically doesn't change with training, but the heart rate required for any given submaximal workload decreases, reflecting improved cardiac efficiency. Vascular adaptations include increased capillary density in trained muscles, improved endothelial function, and enhanced vasodilatory capacity. The increase in muscle capillarization shortens the diffusion distance between blood and muscle fibers while increasing the surface area available for exchange. These adaptations improve oxygen delivery and waste removal, supporting enhanced exercise capacity. Blood volume typically increases with endurance training, providing greater venous return and enhanced stroke volume capacity. The increase in blood volume occurs through both increased plasma volume and increased red blood cell mass, improving the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. These hematological adaptations support the enhanced oxygen transport needed for improved exercise performance. The cardiovascular benefits of regular exercise extend far beyond exercise performance itself. Training-induced adaptations improve resting cardiovascular function, reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, and enhance the system's ability to respond to various stressors. Regular exercise is associated with reduced resting heart rate, lower blood pressure, improved cholesterol profiles, and better glucose regulation. Recovery from exercise involves the gradual return of cardiovascular function toward resting levels, though the time course varies depending on exercise intensity and duration. Heart rate recovery, the rate at which heart rate decreases after exercise cessation, reflects the health of the autonomic nervous system and serves as an indicator of cardiovascular fitness. Faster heart rate recovery generally indicates better cardiovascular health and fitness. Blood flow redistribution during recovery involves the gradual restoration of normal flow patterns as metabolic demands return toward baseline. However, some effects may persist for hours after exercise, including enhanced insulin sensitivity, continued elevation of metabolic rate, and ongoing adaptations in gene expression that contribute to training adaptations. Different types of exercise produce distinct cardiovascular response patterns. Endurance activities like running, cycling, and swimming emphasize sustained increases in cardiac output and enhanced oxygen delivery. Resistance training produces intermittent but substantial increases in blood pressure and cardiac workload. Interval training combines elements of both, alternating between high-intensity periods, requiring maximal cardiovascular adjustments, and recovery periods allowing partial restoration. Environmental factors significantly influence cardiovascular responses to exercise. Heat stress increases the cardiovascular demands of exercise by adding thermoregulatory requirements to metabolic demands. Cold exposure may initially increase cardiovascular stress through vasoconstriction and shivering, but generally poses fewer challenges once exercise begins and heat production increases. Altitude exercise creates additional cardiovascular challenges due to reduced oxygen availability. The cardiovascular system responds by increasing cardiac output to maintain oxygen delivery despite reduced arterial oxygen content. Over time, acclimatization to altitude involves hematological adaptations that improve oxygen transport capacity. Age related changes affect cardiovascular responses to exercise, with older adults typically showing reduced maximum heart rate, decreased cardiac output capacity, and altered blood flow distribution patterns. However, regular exercise can substantially slow age related declines in cardiovascular function, with trained older adults often maintaining cardiovascular capacities superior to sedentary younger individuals. Pathological conditions can significantly impair cardiovascular responses to exercise. Heart disease may limit cardiac output increases, while peripheral vascular disease can impair blood flow to active muscles. These conditions often manifest during exercise when cardiovascular demands exceed the system's compromised capacity, making exercise testing valuable for diagnostic purposes. As you rest quietly, your cardiovascular system maintains the baseline function that supports your current peaceful state. Yet within this same system lies the remarkable capacity to increase its output fivefold or more, to redistribute blood flow dramatically, and to sustain these changes for hours if needed. This adaptability reflects millions of years of evolutionary refinement that has created a circulatory system capable of supporting both the quiet contemplation of rest and the vigorous demands of intense physical activity. The same heart that beats gently now can accelerate to drive circulation that supports remarkable feats of human performance, demonstrating the extraordinary range and precision of cardiovascular function. Your circulatory system has been your constant companion since before your first breath, evolving and adapting throughout every stage of life. From the unique patterns of fetal circulation that sustained you in the womb to the gradual changes that accompany aging, this remarkable system demonstrates extraordinary plasticity in meeting the changing demands of a lifetime. As you rest quietly now, the circulation flowing through your body represents the culmination of decades of adaptation, carrying within its patterns the history of every challenge overcome and every demand met. Fetal circulation operates according to principles entirely different from those governing circulation after birth, reflecting the unique environment and needs of life within the womb. Before birth, the lungs are not yet functional for gas exchange, and oxygen comes from maternal blood through the placenta rather than from breathing air. This fundamental difference requires specialized circulatory pathways that bypass the lungs while ensuring adequate oxygenation of developing tissues throughout the fetal body. The placenta serves as the fetal lung, kidney, and digestive organ, making the umbilical circulation critically important for fetal survival. Two umbilical arteries carry deoxygenated blood from the fetus to the placenta, where gas exchange, nutrient uptake, and waste removal occur across the thin barrier separating fetal and maternal blood. The single umbilical vein returns oxygenated, nutrient-rich blood from the placenta back to the fetus, delivering the substances necessary for growth and development. Within the fetal body, specialized shunts redirect blood flow to accommodate the non-functioning lungs and the need to distribute oxygenated blood efficiently. The ductus venosus allows much of the oxygenated blood returning from the placenta to bypass the liver and flow directly into the inferior vena cava. This ensures that the most oxygen rich blood reaches the fetal heart and brain, supporting the rapid development of these critical organs. The foramen ovale, an opening between the right and left atria, permits blood to flow directly from the right atrium to the left atrium, bypassing the right ventricle and pulmonary circulation. This right to left shunt directs the most oxygenated blood toward the left ventricle, which pumps it to the brain and upper body through the ascending aorta. The positioning of this shunt ensures that developing neural tissue receives blood with the highest possible oxygen content. The ductus arteriosus connects the pulmonary artery to the descending aorta, allowing blood that does reach the right ventricle to bypass the collapsed fetal lungs and join the systemic circulation. This shunt is maintained by prostaglandin E2, which keeps the ductus arteriosus dilated throughout fetal development. The combination of these shunts creates a circulation pattern where both ventricles pump blood to the systemic circulation while minimizing flow through the non-functional lungs. The transition to postnatal circulation represents one of the most dramatic physiological changes in human life, occurring within minutes to hours of birth. The first breaths expand the lungs and dramatically reduce pulmonary vascular resistance, while the clamping of the umbilical cord eliminates the placental circulation. These changes trigger a cascade of circulatory adjustments that establish the adult pattern of circulation. Lung expansion and the onset of breathing cause pulmonary vascular resistance to fall precipitously as the compressed pulmonary vessels open and oxygen-induced vasodilation occurs. This dramatic reduction in pulmonary resistance allows blood to flow readily through the lungs for the first time, establishing the pulmonary circulation that will function throughout life. Simultaneously, the loss of the low-resistance placental circulation increases systemic vascular resistance. The changing pressure relationships between the cardiac chambers cause the fetal shunts to close. As pulmonary resistance falls and systemic resistance rises, left atrial pressure increases above right atrial pressure, functionally closing the foramen ovale. The flap-like septum primum is pressed against the septum secundum, creating a seal that prevents further right to left flow between the atria. Over the following months, this functional closure becomes anatomically permanent as the tissues fuse. The ductus arteriosus constricts in response to the increased oxygen levels that occur with the onset of breathing. Unlike fetal tissues that vasodilate in response to oxygen, the smooth muscle of the ductus arteriosus constricts when exposed to higher oxygen concentrations. Additionally, the removal of the placenta eliminates the source of prostaglandin E2 that kept the ductus open during fetal life. The combination of oxygen-induced constriction and loss of prostaglandin-mediated dilation causes the ductus to close within hours to days after birth. The ductus venosus closes more gradually as the umbilical circulation ceases and hepatic blood flow patterns normalize. With the elimination of umbilical venous return, there is no longer a need for blood to bypass the liver, and normal hepatic circulation becomes established. The remnant of the ductus venosus becomes the ligamentum venosum, a fibrous structure within the liver. Childhood circulation continues to mature and adapt as the body grows and develops. Heart size increases proportionally with body size, while the cardiac output per unit of body weight remains higher in children than in adults, reflecting their greater metabolic rate. Blood pressure gradually increases throughout childhood as the vascular system matures and peripheral resistance increases. The development of exercise capacity during childhood reflects ongoing maturation of cardiovascular function. Maximum heart rate remains high throughout childhood, while stroke volume increases with heart size and body growth. The cardiovascular system's ability to increase cardiac output during exercise improves throughout childhood and adolescence as cardiac capacity and vascular function mature. Adolescence brings significant cardiovascular changes associated with rapid growth and hormonal developments. The growth spurt during puberty requires increased cardiac output to support the rapid increase in body size and metabolic demands. Hormonal changes, particularly increases in growth hormone and sex hormones, influence both cardiac development and vascular function. The development of adult cardiovascular capacity occurs gradually throughout adolescence and early adulthood. Maximum cardiac output capacity typically peaks in the late teens or early 20s, while resting cardiovascular function continues to optimize. The cardiovascular system reaches full maturity with the completion of somatic growth, establishing the baseline function that will be maintained throughout adult life. Young adult circulation represents the cardiovascular system at its peak performance capacity. Resting heart rate, blood pressure, and cardiac output reach their optimal adult levels, while maximum exercise capacity typically peaks during this period. The cardiovascular system demonstrates maximal adaptability to training and environmental challenges, with the greatest potential for performance improvements through exercise conditioning. The cardiovascular system of healthy young adults shows remarkable efficiency and reserve capacity. Resting cardiac output of approximately 5 liters per minute can increase to 20 to 25 liters per minute during maximal exercise, while heart rate can accelerate from 60 to 70 beats per minute to 190 to 200 beats per minute. Blood pressure regulation is precise and responsive, with baroreceptor reflexes operating at peak sensitivity. Middle age brings the first subtle changes in cardiovascular structure and function that mark the beginning of the aging process. These changes occur gradually and may not be apparent in daily life, but they represent the start of age-related modifications that will continue throughout the lifespan. Understanding these changes helps distinguish normal aging from pathological processes. Arterial stiffening begins to occur during middle age as elastic fibers in arterial walls undergo gradual changes. This stiffening causes systolic blood pressure to increase gradually, while diastolic pressure may remain stable or even decrease slightly, resulting in increased pulse pressure. The change occurs so gradually that it typically goes unnoticed, but it represents one of the most consistent cardiovascular changes associated with aging. Cardiac changes during middle age include subtle alterations in diastolic function as the left ventricle becomes slightly stiffer and relaxation becomes less efficient. These changes rarely affect exercise capacity significantly in healthy individuals, but may become more apparent under stress or during illness. The changes reflect gradual modifications in cardiac muscle structure and function that accumulate over decades. Maximum heart rate begins to decline during middle age at a rate of approximately 1 beat per minute per year. This reduction in maximum heart rate contributes to the gradual decline in maximum cardiac output capacity that occurs with aging. However, regular exercise can substantially slow these changes and maintain cardiovascular fitness well into middle age and beyond. Later adulthood brings more noticeable cardiovascular changes that reflect the accumulated effects of aging on the circulatory system. These changes occur at different rates in different individuals, influenced by genetics, lifestyle factors, and the presence or absence of cardiovascular disease. Understanding age-related changes helps distinguish normal aging from pathological processes requiring medical attention. The aging heart undergoes structural changes that affect its function. The left ventricle may develop mild hypertrophy as it works against increasing arterial stiffness, while the left atrium often enlarges slightly to compensate for reduced ventricular compliance. These changes help maintain adequate cardiac function despite the aging process, but may reduce the heart's ability to respond to stress. Valvular changes commonly occur with aging, particularly calcification and stiffening of the aortic valve. Mild aortic stenosis is common in older adults and usually develops gradually without causing symptoms. However, severe aortic stenosis can develop in some individuals, requiring medical or surgical intervention to maintain adequate cardiac function. The conduction system of the aging heart may show changes that affect heart rhythm. The number of pacemaker cells in the sinoatrial node decreases with age, potentially leading to slower resting heart rates and reduced heart rate variability. Some older adults develop conduction delays or blocks that may require pacemaker implantation to maintain adequate heart rhythm. Vascular aging involves changes throughout the circulatory system that affect blood flow and pressure regulation. Arterial stiffening becomes more pronounced, leading to isolated systolic hypertension in many older adults. This condition, characterized by elevated systolic pressure with normal or low diastolic pressure, reflects the reduced compliance of aging arteries. Endothelial function may decline with aging, reducing the production of nitric oxide and other vasodilator substances. This change can contribute to increased vascular resistance and reduced ability to dilate blood vessels in response to metabolic demands. However, regular exercise can help maintain endothelial function and slow age-related vascular changes. Baroreceptor sensitivity typically decreases with aging, reducing the precision of blood pressure regulation. This change may contribute to greater blood pressure variability and increased susceptibility to orthostatic hypotension when changing positions. The reduced sensitivity of pressure regulation reflexes represents one of the most consistent age-related changes in cardiovascular control. Exercise capacity typically declines with aging due to changes in both cardiac and peripheral factors. Maximum heart rate decreases predictably with age, while stroke volume may be maintained or show modest declines. Peripheral factors, including reduced muscle mass and altered oxygen extraction capacity, also contribute to age-related declines in exercise performance. However, the rate of age-related decline in cardiovascular function can be substantially slowed by maintaining regular physical activity. Older adults who exercise regularly often maintain cardiovascular capacities that exceed those of sedentary younger individuals. Exercise training can improve cardiac function, maintain vascular health, and preserve exercise capacity well into advanced age. The cardiovascular benefits of lifelong physical activity extend beyond exercise performance to include reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, better blood pressure control, improved cholesterol profiles, and enhanced quality of life. Regular exercise represents one of the most powerful interventions for maintaining cardiovascular health throughout the aging process. Cardiovascular disease becomes more common with advancing age, though it is not an inevitable consequence of aging. Atherosclerosis, hypertension, heart failure, and arrhythmias all increase in prevalence with age, partly due to age related changes in cardiovascular structure and function, and partly due to the accumulated effects of risk factors over time. The distinction between normal aging and cardiovascular disease remains important for appropriate medical care. While some changes in cardiovascular function are expected with aging, significant symptoms or functional limitations may indicate the presence of disease that can be treated. Regular medical evaluation helps distinguish normal age-related changes from pathological conditions requiring intervention. Genetic factors play significant roles in determining individual patterns of cardiovascular aging. Some people maintain excellent cardiovascular function well into advanced age, while others experience earlier and more significant changes. Family history of cardiovascular disease provides important information about individual risk and the likely trajectory of age-related changes. Environmental factors throughout life influence cardiovascular aging significantly. Smoking accelerates age-related changes and dramatically increases disease risk, while regular exercise slows aging and maintains function. Diet, stress management, and other lifestyle factors contribute to the wide individual variation in cardiovascular aging patterns. The social and psychological aspects of cardiovascular aging deserve consideration as well. Maintaining an active lifestyle and social engagement supports cardiovascular health while contributing to overall well-being. The cardiovascular system's capacity to support physical and social activities influences quality of life and independence throughout the aging process. As you rest quietly, your circulatory system continues the remarkable journey that began before birth and will continue throughout your lifetime. The same basic design that supported your rapid growth as a child now maintains your adult function with subtle adaptations to the gradual changes that accompany aging. Understanding this lifelong journey of cardiovascular adaptation provides perspective on both the remarkable durability of the circulatory system and the importance of lifestyle choices in supporting optimal function throughout the years ahead. This journey through life demonstrates the extraordinary adaptability and resilience of the cardiovascular system. From the specialized patterns of fetal circulation to the gradual adaptations of aging, your heart and blood vessels continuously modify their function to meet changing needs while maintaining the steady flow that sustains life itself. In this final chapter of our journey through the circulatory system, we arrive at perhaps the most profound realization of all, the endless, continuous nature of circulation itself. As you lie in peaceful stillness, blood flows through your body in an unbroken cycle that began with your first heartbeat and will continue until your last. This endless flow represents more than mere transportation. It embodies the very essence of life, the constant movement that connects every cell, every tissue, every organ in a unified whole. The concept of circulation as an endless flow encompasses both the physical reality of blood movement and the deeper meaning of this continuous process for life itself. Unlike other bodily functions that operate in cycles with clear beginnings and endings, circulation knows no pause, no rest, no intermission. The blood that flows through your arteries at this moment will travel through capillaries, return through veins, pass through your heart, journey to your lungs, and begin the cycle anew, in an unending loop that has continued for every moment of your existence. This perpetual motion carries profound implications for understanding life at its most fundamental level. Every breath you take, every thought you think, every movement you make depends entirely on the continuous circulation of blood. The hormones that regulate your sleep all travel through this endless flowing stream that connects your body's most distant corners with your central organs. The mathematical precision of this endless flow becomes apparent when we consider the numbers involved. In an average lifetime of 80 years, your heart will beat approximately 3 billion times, pumping roughly 200 million liters of blood, enough to fill more than 50 Olympic swimming pools. Each red blood cell will complete its circuit through your body approximately 1,000 times per day, traveling through vessels that, if laid end to end, would circle the earth more than twice. These numbers hint at the magnitude of the endless flow that sustains your existence. Yet beyond the mathematics lies a deeper appreciation for the seamless integration of this system with every aspect of human physiology. The circulatory system does not operate in isolation, but rather serves as the common pathway that connects all other organ systems. The respiratory system depends on circulation to transport gases. The digestive system relies on it to distribute nutrients. The endocrine system uses it as a highway for hormone transport, and the immune system employs it to deploy defensive cells throughout the body. This integration means that circulation represents more than a simple transport system. It serves as the body's communication network, information highway, and supply chain all rolled into one. Chemical signals traveling in the bloodstream coordinate activities between organs separated by vast distances at the cellular scale. Hormones released by glands in one part of the body influence processes in organs throughout the system, all made possible by the endless flow of circulation. The temporal aspects of circulation reveal another dimension of its endless nature. While we often think of circulation in terms of complete circuits from heart to tissues and back, the reality is more complex and fascinating. Different components of blood travel at different speeds and take different routes through the body. A molecule of oxygen absorbed in the lungs might reach the brain within seconds, while the same oxygen could take minutes to reach the muscles in your toes. This temporal complexity creates overlapping cycles within the broader endless flow. Blood in different parts of your body is at different stages of oxygenation, nutrient loading, and waste collection at any given moment. Your circulation represents thousands of simultaneous cycles, each proceeding at its own pace, all contributing to the overall endless flow that sustains life. The cellular perspective on endless flow provides insight into the microscopic level where circulation's effects are ultimately realized. Every cell in your body exists within a few micrometers of a capillary, ensuring that no cell is ever isolated from the endless flow. The continuous perfusion of tissues means that cellular metabolism can proceed without interruption. Waste products are constantly removed, and the cellular environment remains stable despite ongoing metabolic activity. At the cellular level, the endless flow manifests as the continuous exchange of substances across capillary walls. Oxygen diffuses from red blood cells to tissue cells that need it, while carbon dioxide moves in the opposite direction. Nutrients absorbed hours ago from your digestive tract continue to circulate until cells throughout your body extract what they need. This microscopic level of endless flow enables the macroscopic functions we recognize as life. The energetics of endless flow highlight the remarkable efficiency of the circulatory system. The heart consumes only about 10% of the body's total energy production, yet it drives the circulation that enables all other energy consuming processes. This efficiency reflects millions of years of evolutionary optimization, creating a system that can maintain endless flow with minimal energy expenditure while maximizing the benefits delivered to every tissue. The redundancy built into the circulatory system ensures the continuity of endless flow even when individual components fail. Collateral circulation can develop to bypass blocked vessels. Backup pacemakers can maintain heart rhythm if primary systems fail, and multiple regulatory mechanisms can compensate for disruptions in any single control pathway. This redundancy reflects the critical importance of maintaining endless flow for survival. Environmental challenges reveal both the robustness and adaptability of endless flow. Whether you experience temperature extremes, changes in altitude, physical exertion, or emotional stress, your circulation adjusts to maintain the endless flow under altered conditions. These adaptations occur automatically, without conscious control, demonstrating the sophisticated regulatory systems that have evolved to protect the continuity of circulation. The psychological and philosophical dimensions of endless flow invite contemplation about the nature of life itself. The continuous movement of blood through your body mirrors the constant change that characterizes all living systems. Just as the blood in your arteries is never exactly the same from moment to moment, constantly being refreshed with oxygen, nutrients, and hormones, while releasing waste products, life itself involves continuous renewal and change within an overall pattern of continuity. This endless flow connects you to the larger web of life through the elements and molecules that cycle through your circulation. The iron in your hemoglobin may once have been part of ancient stars, while the carbon in your red blood cells has cycled through countless other living organisms throughout Earth's history. Your circulation participates in cycles far grander than the simple loop from heart to tissues and back, connecting you to the planet's larger biogeochemical cycles. The social and cultural significance of circulation appears in numerous human traditions and metaphors. The heart as a symbol of life, love, and vitality reflects the intuitive understanding that circulation is central to existence. References to lifeblood, circulation of ideas, and the flow of life in various cultures recognize the fundamental importance of continuous circulation for vitality and connection. Medical perspectives on endless flow emphasize the critical nature of maintaining circulation for health and survival. Every medical intervention, from basic first aid to complex surgery, ultimately aims to preserve or restore adequate circulation. The medical understanding of shock, cardiac arrest, stroke, and countless other conditions centers on disruptions to normal circulation and efforts to restore the endless flow that sustains life. The technological marvels developed to support circulation when natural systems fail demonstrate human appreciation for the critical nature of endless flow. Heart-lung machines that temporarily take over circulation during surgery, artificial hearts that can sustain circulation for months or years, and dialysis machines that perform some of the circulatory system's filtering functions all represent attempts to replicate or support the endless flow that nature provides. Research into circulation continues to reveal new aspects of this endless flow, from the molecular mechanisms that regulate vessel diameter to the complex feedback systems that maintain optimal blood flow distribution. Each discovery adds to our appreciation of the sophisticated engineering that makes endless flow possible while revealing new opportunities to support and optimize circulatory function. The future of circulation research holds promise for even better understanding and support of endless flow. Advances in regenerative medicine may eventually allow repair or replacement of damaged circulatory components, while improved understanding of circulation regulation could lead to better treatments for circulatory disorders. These developments build on the foundation of knowledge about the endless flow that sustains all life. As we conclude this exploration of circulation, consider that the journey we have taken through the cardiovascular system mirrors the endless flow we have been examining. We began with the heart and followed the pathways of circulation through arteries, capillaries, and veins, exploring specialized circuits and control mechanisms before arriving back at the recognition that circulation is fundamentally about endless flow. The blood flowing through your body as you read these final words carries within it the elements necessary for every cellular process occurring throughout your system. The oxygen enabling your brain cells to process these concepts, the glucose fueling the muscle contraction that position your body comfortably, the hormones regulating your current state of restfulness, all travel through the endless flow of circulation. This endless flow will continue as you drift towards sleep, maintaining the quiet processes of cellular repair and restoration that occur during rest. It will persist through whatever dreams may come, sustaining the neural activity that creates the landscapes of sleep consciousness. And it will be there when you wake, ready to support whatever activities the new day may bring. The remarkable fact that this endless flow continues without any conscious effort on your part reflects the profound wisdom embedded in biological systems. You need not think about adjusting your heart rate, redistributing blood flow, or regulating vascular resistance. All of these adjustments occur automatically through the sophisticated control systems we have explored. The endless flow continues, adaptable yet constant, variable yet reliable. In the deeper quiet that follows our exploration, appreciate the endless flow as both a physical reality and a metaphor for life itself. Like the circulation that sustains your body, life involves continuous movement within patterns of stability, constant change within overall continuity, individual uniqueness within universal principles. The endless flow of circulation connects you to every other living being that depends on similar systems for survival, while simultaneously supporting the unique individual existence that is yours alone. As consciousness fades and sleep approaches, the endless flow continues its ancient rhythm, maintaining the processes of life while allowing the conscious mind to rest. In this twilight between waking and sleeping, between awareness and dreams, the endless flow of circulation provides the constant foundation that makes all states of consciousness possible. The journey through circulation is complete, yet the endless flow continues, as it has for every moment of your life, as it will for every moment yet to come. In this continuity lies both the mystery and the miracle of life itself, the endless flow that connects each moment to the next, each heartbeat to the totality of existence, each breath to the infinite complexity of being alive.